All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
You're listening to the Northern Hunter Podcast, home of all things hunting, fishing, and outdoors in Alaska.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is James Payne.
I'm Dalton Gray.
I'm Ryan Humphreys.
And hopefully you guys are all enjoying this first week. I guess now the first week's over of 2024, new year. So,
when this comes out, I was like, well, what did I miss?
right. Well, I totally missed that the last one was going to be dropping on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Maybe next year we'll be more on top of that, as things
Release a
progress.
special holiday
Yeah,
episodes.
do something like that.
It's just another year. I mean, it's just another trip around this flat
Nah, man.
sheet of soil
new
that we
year,
live
new
on.
you, right?
No.
No.
2 weeks later, he'll still be fat.
I am not fat.
I'll say if any of us.
Yeah. If any of us in this room have a weight problem, well, really, it's none of us.
I was going to say,
We're all too stressed out to be fat.
Exactly.
No, I just have the same goals to kill stuff every year. It's just nothing new.
Well, that's the fun thing for me is it's not
just hunt more.
Yeah, none of this whole new year, new me stuff. It's just it's a chance to plan out a whole new year. Which, hopefully this one goes a little better for me. But new opportunities, new places to explore, things like that. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah.
I think we did a whole episode on that whole planning phase last year. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. But you guys got I'm gonna lead into this so you can go on your little spiel.
Okay,
but you guys got any resolutions you're working on this year?
Nope.
no resolutions.
No.
A few things I want to do, but no resolutions.
There you go.
See?
No.
I don't like resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are just what everybody does because everybody asks about it. It's a pressure thing. It's
Isn't
a
it
peer pressure.
It's kind of a weird phase, or not phase, but like what do you call that? Like I don't know, like phenomenon or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
everybody feels like they have to do it.
everybody.
So.
I mean, ever since as long as I can remember, people ask, "Well, what's your New Year's resolutions this year?"
Mm-hmm.
And at first, as a kid, like you think that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like you got to come up with something.
Yep.
And I agree, there are people who have things they need to change in their lives, but change it now when you need to change and you need to change. Don't wait till New Year's to change it. Don't decide that you're going to eat healthy starting New Year's Day so you can just binge or whatever, you gorge yourself on food all holiday season. If you need to lose weight, you got to start now.
Right.
And now all that spiel aside, before I really get it, really tell you how I feel. I a couple years ago, I decided that I didn't like the whole idea of New Year's resolutions. It's just something that it's just stuff that we all say to make ourselves feel better about what we're going to do, and then we lie to ourselves.
It's virtue signaling.
It's a form of it, yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
We lie to ourselves and to each other about what we're going to do to better our lives, to make ourselves feel better for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And and as the kid in my Sunday school class said, in 2 weeks later, you're still fat. Yeah.
Well,
that's why I said that. Yeah.
To be fair, in 2 weeks you would still, even if you are working towards it every day, but still, it's like
it's a joke. But and hey, if the new year and some people have made some decisions and you're going to stick by it. You should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I decided the new year. Last year, around New Year's, I thought, you know what? I'd like to read more books than I have. I'm going to try to read more books this year. And I did. I don't know how many I read. I just know I read more than the year before. Mm-hmm. This year, I thought, it'd be nice to read even more than I did last year. So I'm going to try to put a focus on reading some more books.
Mhm.
And I decided
You've
I'm
got
gonna.
a New Year resolution.
It's not a New Year's resolution.
Yes, it is.
I'm just gonna read more books.
So I think my opinion on it is it's good. It's not a destructive fad. I'll say that
I don't
because
think
it's good to make
I
people
agree.
think about bettering themselves and
Yeah.
think about things they can improve upon. Even if you start it on New Year's Day and flop 2 weeks later and then come back to it a month later and flop a month after that. And then you come back to it 2 months after that. And then you maybe actually stick with it.
Yeah.
It gets you on that path,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It gets you, that first
yeah,
step.
you've got a point.
Taking
there.
steps in the right direction.
The hard part is thinking that you can only start that on New Year's. If you have a strong
Right,
willpower,
right.
you can start whatever you want, whenever you want. You don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to have like a set start date.
Right.
But I think there are a lot of people that do kind of need that push
Mm-hmm.
for like a set
That's
start
true.
date.
That's
but
true. I just think and even though people don't mean it this way to themselves, it's kind of just it's an artificial incentive
yeah,
that doesn't last.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because once the hype's gone, then the
Right,
motivation
it's
leaves
like-
too.
it's-
You
it's
got to
like-
have the discipline to stick
right
with
when
it.
when you start dating somebody or you get married, you've got this incentive to portray yourself in a certain ways. No matter how hard you try not to be that person, we all
Mhm.
do it.
Right? Yeah.
And after a certain amount of time, and it's different for everybody, you start to show who you really are,
Right.
and then you really start building a true relationship.
right. Yeah.
The same thing goes for you and yourself and what you tell yourself.
Mm.
The reason I say we're deciding to read more books isn't
Oh, yes, it is.
a resolution.
Oh, yes, it is.
Is because it's something I would like to do,
Yeah.
and I will do if it's possible, but it's not something I'm going to try to like change my life necessarily.
You should
to
almost
do.
call
it is a soft goal that renews itself every new year. You're like, well, this year I want to.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It is a New Year's
I don't care
resolution.
if it has. I don't. So when I say I'd like to read more books, it's more
It's not like you're saying one book every month or one book every
Right.
2 months or
Right.
something
right.
like that.
It's more
Yeah.
like I'm just going to try to pick up and read.
I'm going to read
more.
more than last year.
And I would almost say instead of New Year's resolution, calling like New Year's like reflection, like looking back at
Yeah.
what you did last
Yeah.
year. How can you improve? Like for me, even like this time of year, and everybody's talking about what they're going to do. You know,
But it's
and
a
everybody's
goal.
thing is like going to the gym, right? That's the big
But
one.
the whole
But,
idea
like,
of you're right. The whole
like-
idea of resolution is changing something so drastically.
right.
Mhm.
But like for me, even like hearing other people talk about bettering themselves around this time of year kind of makes me think about like, oh, what can I do? Like, okay,
Yeah.
I can stop drinking as many energy drinks because I need my blood to actually like not be just Red Bull, right? Like,
Yeah.
Why
is that exactly?
Or like exactly right. Yeah. Or another thing is like scrolling. A lot of people have an issue with scrolling on their phones these days. You just sit there and you zone out and you just scroll
Right.
on all these reels
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's it kind of gives you a chance to like look back and be like, okay, maybe that's something I can work on instead of zoning out. For half an hour after work, I can actually be productive during
Yeah,
that time or
so-
something like that, right? Like,
And
But-
on that note specifically,
mhm.
if you're reading a book, you got to put your phone down and stop scrolling, right? So
right?
I don't necessarily look at scrolling personally as a destructive tendency because I have discovered
Mhm.
that compared to anybody else almost that I talk to, not everybody, but who the question is broached, like somebody told me like, oh, I've only spent this much time on my phone this week and this much on this app and this much, and I pull my phone and I think, oh, that sounds pretty good. I pull my phone out and it's less than that, and I think, thought I spent a lot of time doing it, and then I realize I'm so busy
Yeah,
that my downtime and relaxing my brain doing that isn't really
it's person to person.
right. Exactly. So I do it a little bit here and there. I do it less and less,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I'm busy, and then I get a little less busy. Well, then I do it more. But
Yep.
if I can put my phone down and read a book,
Mhm.
it's a lot more bettering than most of that scrolling.
Right.
Now, hey, Jordan Peterson pops up on some of those clips.
Yeah.
Right. So that's or
I've learned a lot about ice baths scrolling through, and the benefits and the health.
Have you been doing ice baths?
No, dude. I live in Alaska. That's the last thing I want to do.
just walk outside. Yeah.
Yeah, go outside in a
Or
t-shirt.
take a
for
bath, don't dry off, and then go outside.
30. Ooh, there you go.
Don't do that, folks.
You will
don't-
regret that.
Yeah, that's a bad
Yeah,
idea.
You will snap your hair off.
Right.
But
I've known people to do it.
I found an app. It's
For ice baths?
No, there's an app for everything, right?
Sorry, it was too good to pass
Right,
up.
but it's an educational app, and it's got all these courses like math and
The Headway app.
no. I'll say what it's called in a little bit. Actually, I'll wait until we're sponsored. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
It's called it's called Brilliant, and it's just there's courses like algebra, algebra, math fundamentals, and then it goes all the way into calculus. And they're super simple, basic courses, and you can learn like each step, like 5 minutes a day. Just get on there. So instead of scrolling, I've been getting on there. And I didn't start this just now. I started this a week or two ago. Not because of New Year. It's just I happened to find out about it.
Right.
So I started doing it. I honestly, I liked math in high school, but I was really bored by the fact that I had to do it.
Right.
And so I learned it, but it's, stuff like algebra I haven't used in a long time since I was in high school. But there's times when I could have used it. And it always bothered me that I didn't have what I needed to finish something, like, because I've lost it over time.
Yeah.
And so, like, in a matter of probably 30 minutes on that app in the last week or so, I have a tremendous understanding now. Remember, because it's bringing it all back, I'm sure. And it's like, I always wished I'd like gone into like calculus and stuff, just because I wished I understood a lot more about how that stuff worked. I'm a bit of a nerd, and I like that knowledge and the intricate understanding of how things work. And so my plan with it is just to, instead of as much TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or whatever Reels thing I'm scrolling through, or YouTube.
Yeah, I refuse to have TikTok.
And
it was because of you I got TikTok. Just going to throw that out there for public information.
I had it for a very short amount of time.
You showed me a few videos and I was like, dude, this is hilarious. Right?
Yeah, and then I quickly got rid of it.
Well, and like you said, like I pointed that out kind of more just a random example, but like, it is individual to individual. And, and there's nothing wrong with relaxing and doing whatever you enjoy and like taking in the content you
watch
want to
YouTube hunting videos. Come on.
I was going to say, that's a lot of what I watch in my downtime is
listen to the Northern Hunter.
Yeah, listening to, educational shows and guys ranting about random stuff on the air. And
there's so much information out there.
In this episode already to learn about hunting.
Well, on that note, we
no.
Did I skipped your resolution? Didn't I
was going to say,
man,
hold the phone.
Yep.
I don't have any resolutions, but I'm just going to say, Mariah, that is a New Year's resolution that you want to read more books this year. And to make it a resolution, I'm going to put up a sign in here that has Mariah, New Year resolution, read more books. And that will make it official.
With hash mark spots underneath
just
it.
Just to prove my opinion about resolutions, I'm not going to read any books this year.
That's funny.
Self-destructive tendencies, but he will win.
I'm going to scroll more.
It reminds me of being a teenager with Mariah, and we'd be out hunting, and he'd say, "Hey, Dalton, I bet you can't carry that thing all the way into the bear bait." I'd be like, "Well, yeah, I can."
Right.
No, you can't. It's too heavy. Next thing you know, I'm at the bear bait carrying that sucker.
Who wasn't carrying anything?
And who wasn't carrying anything. Yeah, Mariah. So,
see,
I have learned.
I remember being with another guy. We were on the coast, and I said, "Hey, I bet you can't carry those 3 bags of salt." And you're like, "Oh yeah, watch me." And we stood back and watched you carry all 3 bags of salt to the boat. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
But anywho, guys, so we're going to talk today. You guys touched on your deer hunt a little bit in the last episode. With Jeff Day. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed that one. Though Jeff Day episodes are always a wild show, and it's awesome. That thing took so many spins and turns. I even kind of forgot what we were there to talk about originally, honestly.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody else did. But I really want to expand kind of on the story of you guys' deer hunt. I know that was something we kind of started this whole endeavor with, was the deer hunting, and talking a lot about that. And then we had all gone down last year, came back and told the story. So I kind of feel like it'd be a good thing to tell the story of how it went this year, maybe compare the differences, talk about some strategy stuff and whatnot and what people can expect. So, but I'm really interested in hearing. I've heard most of the story from you guys kind of individually, but maybe there'll be some details even I haven't heard yet today.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot.
But first,
I was going to say, you got it.
First, this week we found out some very interesting information about the proposals from the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Now, this is an article that was posted actually the day of recording on this episode, January 3rd. This is on Outdoor Life. This is an article written by none other than our friend Tyler Friel. and host of the Tundra Talk podcast, recent guest on the Meat Eater podcast.
I still haven't listened to that.
Big time, Mr. Tyler. He did a good job talking about Alaska hunting and some of the issues that are going on up here with the feds and some of the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories and some of the actual facts that are going on.
Does he have any opinions on that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Go give it a listen. So anyway, on this article on outdoor life, and again, this is written by Tyler, he discusses the proposal that would close non-resident caribou hunting in northwestern Alaska. And a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if listeners will remember or not, I think it was just Moe and I went over some of the proposals that were submitted to Fish and Game for the various regions.
Yep. I think I was sick for that episode or something.
Yeah, something to that effect. But it was, just giving example of what these proposals can be from folks that just want to see things changed. One of them, for example, was a grizzly bear season lengthening proposal.
Please let that one go through.
I believe it would lengthen it till June 15th.
Yeah.
And that was in 20B, which is our native Fairbanks unit, which would greatly help the grizzly bear population.
And for anybody 20B is actually huge.
Oh, yeah.
Like it is a huge unit.
And for those that don't know, my comment about helping the grizzly bear population was completely out of sarcasm. Anyway, back to the proposal here. In the article, it kicks off by saying Alaska's remote Western Arctic caribou herd has been the heated topic of discussion in recent years. The herd's declining population has been the catalyst for massive closures of public lands to non-local hunters, an action that federal land management agencies took through the Federal Subsistence. We've kept up with these ongoing events for several years, and now we could see non-resident hunting for caribou in this area eliminated completely. So in order just to save time here, if we skip down to the section that says State of the Western Arctic Herd, news to no one. The Western Arctic herd is still in decline after peaking at nearly 500,000 animals in 2003. It has experienced a steady decline, and the latest surveys estimate the herd around 152,000 animals, according to a report by Alaska Public Media. Managers would like to see the herd at or around 200,000 or higher, and current numbers warrant more intensive management under the guidelines of non-governmental Northwest Arctic Caribou Herd Working Group. So, back in time, the Western Arctic herd numbered only about 75,000 animals in 1975, after declining from 242,000 animals in only 1970. It then rebounded to 343,000 animals in 1985. So, from 1970 at 242,000 to in 1975, 5 years later, down to 75,000. And then 10 years later, back up to 345,000 or 343,000 animals.
Yep.
So within a 15-year cycle, we're looking at hundreds of thousands gained and lost.
Well, and for anybody not familiar with caribou herds, and we've talked about several different caribou herds on this show in the past. Some require an intensive management system, some not. But caribou herds are just inherently cyclical in nature. And I don't mean like marginally. I mean insanely.
Yes.
They will boom 600% from the original herd size and then crash 400% and then come up, 30% and then go back down a certain, and it's just like they're always up and down and up and down and up. And you can't look at 10 years of data on a caribou herd.
Right.
You've got to look at the last 50 years or however much we have on whatever particular herd it is to see a pattern.
Exactly. Tyler goes on to use Frank Glasser's book, written by Jim Reardon in 1926. Glasser was outside. The story talks about Glasser's experiences with caribou, including a time when a herd he describes as, quote, a mile wide and 9 miles long, end quote, showed up outside the town of Healy in 1926. A mile wide and 9 miles long.
I remember that story.
That is a lot of caribou.
That is a lot of caribou.
How many caribou do you see through there nowadays? Not that many.
I mean, I've seen
I saw
maybe
probably
10 on a good drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20.
Not a mile wide and 9 miles long.
No.
as far as the eye can see. And so for anybody that wants to know kind of a history about the caribou populations in Alaska, Alaska's Wolfman, which is written by Jim Reardon from the field notes of Frank Glasser. We've talked about Frank many times on this show
field
before.
Notes and personal interviews.
Yeah. But he spent 40 years in Alaska, and Frank said the following about caribou. For years, they'll move into a region each winter until you think you know what a given herd will do. Then suddenly, for no apparent reason, they'll disappear. Caribou won't be seen in that area for years. Sometimes caribou migrate in straggled bands, other times they'll crowd into a massive herd. Basically, what he's saying is there's no rhyme or reason to it. Some people like to just pin it on food, and they eat themselves out of house and home in one spot and then just move. Other people think it's predators, and they get pushed around by wolves and bears.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a combination of both, and just bad luck.
All of the above weather.
Yeah, it just comes and goes. Yeah, harsh winters. Snow coverage. If they winter in the same spot many years in a row, then they can deplete the resources there. We've seen that happen to the 40 Mile before.
And Nilchina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Tyler goes on to say, and this is kind of the main gist of the article, non-residents aren't to blame for declines. There are many reasons to watch the Western Arctic herd with a concerned eye. The declines are a real quandary for folks who've had caribou migrate within easy reach for 20 or 30 years. This doesn't mean the herd is doomed, however, and eliminating non-resident hunting isn't going to reverse those declines. In fact, non-residents have very little impact on the caribou herd at all. Since 2016, non-residents and other non-local hunters have tallied an annual harvest of approximately 250 caribou, nearly all bulls, according to ADF&G biologist Alex Hansen, who spoke with Outdoor Life for a 2022 story on the subject. That number is almost certainly lower in recent years since the federal land closures that were enacted. Estimates from the same time period put the annual subsistence harvest at between 10 and 14,000 animals, many of which were cows and calves. Remember, cows and calves are key to maintaining or increasing herd numbers. Proposals 3 and 38, closure for non-residents. As a part of the regulatory process in Alaska, the Board of Game has regular meetings and considers proposals for regulation changes. Anyone can submit a proposal, which allows the public a great opportunity to participate in the wildlife management process and enact meaningful change in the hunting and trapping regulations. The gist of it here, Proposals 3 and 38 will be debated and voted on during meetings that are scheduled for January 26th through 29th in Kotzebue. If passed, Proposal 3 would close Units 21D and remainder 22, 23, 24B remainder, 24C, 24D, and 26A to all non-resident caribou hunters.
Really?
Proposal 38 would close Unit 23 to non-resident caribou hunters. Proposals 2, 36, and 37 would reduce bag limits for resident hunters, but it's unclear whether those reductions would have any impact on the subsistence harvest on federal land. Those are extensive proposals. I didn't even realize how many units that listed. That is a ton of area.
24B would be off the list for non-residents?
24B remainder. Yeah. 21D remainder, 22, 23, 24B remainder, 24C, 24D, and 26A, and 23.
Ooh, buddy.
That would just flat across the table. Yeah. No non-residents for caribou hunting in any of those units.
Wow.
I don't see how that could pass. However,
crazier things have happened.
We've seen weirder things happen.
Well, and the thing is, you've got to look at, and this is the part that kind of annoys, I think, most people is, when they start making these kind of small, almost, what do you call it? Well, you used the term before, virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Attempts at management where, the feds come in and shut down a sheep unit that historically had, what'd you say, 1.4 rams killed per year?
1.4
as look at us, we're doing something for sheep management. Yeah. Or in this case, the herd's down 300,000 from its original herd, but the people that are
It's at 150 right now.
from its peak.
Yeah.
From its peak, it's down 350,000 animals, right?
Yeah.
But the people that kill 300 are the problem. You know,
Right.
and it's just one of those
Exactly.
things where you look at the management and it's like, really? Come on.
Mhm.
Like, I mean,
Well,
that's
so
what you're going to do.
Perfect
Like,
example. Perfect example is the sheep closure
mhm.
in Central Brooks Range
Yeah.
that we saw a few years ago. And what everybody thinks, and I don't know enough about this to really come at it from an educated perspective, but this is from other folks that have done more homework into it than I have, including Tyler.
Mm.
And it seems to be, that as I understand it, that a lot of that came from one or two people
I've heard that before.
that live in Wiseman.
I've heard that before, yeah.
And one of his arguments for that closure was there used to be sheep all over the road up here and all up on these mountains right from the road, and now there's no rams left.
Mhm.
That's part of his argument.
Right.
And they bought it
Mhm.
because nobody, either nobody spoke up and said anything in enough time,
Right.
or it was already a predetermined outcome, which I am more likely to believe because
Mhm.
I know of at least 4 different individuals and agencies, groups, SCI lobbied against that. Alaska
Yeah.
Outdoor Council was against that. And I think it was 12 people that got to lobby for it. And at the end of it, it was almost unanimous vote to close it. That was it. They just, all right, we've heard we've heard your arguments against it. We're still going to close it. And just
Mhm.
like that,
Right.
no,
My opinion of it
no
is that
compromise at all.
the administration
Mhm.
is just not hunter friendly.
Yeah.
Did it say
absolutely.
anything about 24A in that? I forget if you mentioned that.
Let me go back here and look.
That would kill a lot of non-res caribou hunting.
No 24A.
No 24A, okay.
No 24B remainder, 24C, 24D. That's all for
It's
24.
still a lot of country.
So to wrap up here, and I'm not going to read the whole article. This is the last bit that we'll read here. State regulations currently allow 5 caribou per day, cow or bull, for residents with a year-round season on bulls
Mm-hmm.
and a 7-month-long season for cows. The federal subsistence regulations also allow 5 caribou per day with a year-round season for bulls and an 8-month-long season for cows. If approved, either of these proposals, 3 or 38, would result in one of the most widespread losses of hunting opportunities for non-residents that the state has ever seen, with little evidence to support it. That is where the sword's tip is. There's no evidence to support it.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers don't match.
Right.
Closing caribou hunting to non-residents over a 300 harvest in Unit 23 is not enough to offset for a population decline.
The biggest impact that's going to have is economical.
It's
going to hurt a lot of transporters. It's going to hurt a lot of guides.
Did we say who introduced the proposal?
I didn't look into it. I haven't actually been on Fishing
I'm
Game
interested in that.
to see.
I haven't looked it up either, but it seems that it might be more
of a personal thing.
More of a personal thing for a lot of people. There's people.
It could be.
Locals in the area just don't want.
Oh, right here. Now, the Northwest Arctic Caribou Herd Working Group and the same entity that proposed the federal closures, the Northwest Arctic Regional Advisory Council, are asking the state. So it is.
Yeah.
So the Northwest Arctic Caribou Herd Working Group and the Northwest Arctic Regional Advisory Council are both lobbying for those proposals.
Gotcha.
That's a problem because they're the ones that got the federal closures to begin with.
I know a couple of those guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
But, I'll say this. Wildlife resources are not a indefinite resource. They're not limitless. Animals, though prevalent and, especially when you see some of these big caribou herds and you think they're endless in number, right?
Yeah.
They're not.
Right.
There is a number to how many caribou are there.
Mm-hmm.
And that number changes. But, you can't treat, and I feel like in some respect, it has been treated in this state like our wildlife resources are just limitless. They're infinite, You look at, a lot of other states have a certain number of tags they put out per year. And they'll limit, 90% to residents, 10% to non-residents.
Mm-hmm.
Alaska has no limit on the number of tags that are given out. They'll have areas with quotas. And so certain areas, once a quota is met, they'll shut that area down. But
Or
there's
it's a draw permit.
Or it's a draw permit. But there's no
registration,
limit on over-the-counter tags that are given. Mm-hmm. They'll just shut it down once it reaches a certain point, which I like. I prefer it to be that way. But you can't treat a caribou herd like it's an unlimited number and you can just take as many as you want, because that's how you get like what happened to the bison in the lower 48, right? I mean, it went from, I don't even know how many billions of bison, right? Down to, I think there were 24 in Yellowstone when they made the park. Something like that. It was.
I'll take your word for it.
I don't remember the exact number. I looked at. I went to the museum while I was down there, but it was a super low number.
Yeah.
And so you do have to be careful. You do have to create limitations. You do have to manage these populations, even when they seem massive.
Right.
But do it effectively. Like if you're going to manage a population, do it in a way that's actually going to make a difference.
Yeah.
It is the way I see it, because otherwise you're kind of just taking the low-hanging fruit. I think it's real easy to enforce non-res laws because they just can't come up here to hunt there anymore.
Yeah.
To do, and I'm no caribou herd expert by any stretch, but so I couldn't even begin to give these guys.
None of us are. But.
Advice on exactly what to do, but it's I don't know. It's something that needs to be managed, and I understand the need for management. I'm never going to be upset about preserving herds of animals, but it has to be a way that makes sense. Like it has to be.
I have a problem with preservation. I think it's one thing to conserve, and proper management and conservation promotes healthy numbers.
Right.
Preserving a herd means we shouldn't hunt it.
It depends on who you talk to, I guess.
In your interpretation.
That's not the way I use the word, but yeah.
It's not how you look at it.
Yeah.
But outside of our circle, preservation carries a different meaning than conservation does.
You conserve the herd, you preserve the resource.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Preservation goes hand in hand with conservation, but conservation doesn't work with a preservationist mindset.
You're talking about people who are anti-hunting and think we just need to let these, animals go wild.
Yeah.
Completely ignoring the fact that we've been involved in this ecosystem for, ever.
We're as much an animal, a part of this landscape as they are.
Right.
We just learned how to build houses and iPhones.
Exactly. We're the most destructive creatures on the planet, but we're still creatures.
Depending on which side of the coin you fall
I
on.
don't believe that.
We've been here just as long as they have.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting proposal. I would like to think that it will not pass.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to. Based on what we've seen lately, my faith in that is not as strong as it would have been 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, had anybody come out and said that they were going to close down a huge portion of the Brooks Range to hunting for anyone really,
right.
in that federal closure, people would have laughed at you.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the administration in place. Because that wouldn't happen under a president like that, under a secretary of whoever manages this whole umbrella of wildlife management and state resources. But now, all of a sudden, the precedent has been set. And I want to be careful here not to paint Alaska as this battleground for hunting rights, because in the last episode with Jeff Day, we talked about both the opportunities and the changing political climate and what we're seeing in Alaska.
Right.
This is the place where everybody else looks to and says that's the most free place.
Mm-hmm.
Alaska is still that place.
It is.
Alaska is still the land of opportunity as far as hunting and fishing and outdoor recreation is concerned. Yeah. Nobody's going to argue that point. What we are concerned about is not that Alaska is losing that, but who is managing what we've got. Because we believe in the state's right to manage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Ultimately, this proposal, although it's bad, in our opinion and in the opinion of probably most of the residents that that any of us in this room would know, although we disagree with it, if it gets passed, it won't be by the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
it will be through our Board of Fish and Game.
Right.
It is proposed by these other agencies and working groups for this part of the state, but they're just a lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially.
They don't have management control over the caribou. They can't make that decision, or else they would have.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious that they don't want non-residents up there. And the next step is to make non-locals, is to make it subsistence only.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what they want, because that's what they enacted up in the Brooks Range up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. So it's baby steps, but at least in this situation, the ball is in the state's court. This is, although...
Which means we have a fighting chance.
Yes, we have a much better chance of stopping this because it goes through Fish and Game.
Yeah.
And Fish and Game is going to look into these numbers that we just read off, and they're going to look into their whole book of numbers that they've got outside of the information that we have. And I honestly have very, very little doubt that Fish and Game is going to shoot this down and say no.
Well, and we've seen that time and time again where even federal pushes for, we talked about putting the wolves, they wanted to put the southeastern wolf population on the endangered species list. And that it got pushed back. And so it does seem like there is a culture of looking at what really would work for conservation and doing that, regardless of different proposals, different things that may come about. We can get worked up about these proposals, and we should.
Yes.
Is there a comment section open for this?
Till January 12th.
Till January 12th.
I'm going to verify that.
Did he put a link for where people can go to make their comments?
I'm going to look.
But yeah, we should get, worked up about proposals, because proposals become laws, right? Like, you need to make your voice heard on proposals.
At the end of Tyler's article, scroll down to the bottom, it says public comment. The State of Alaska Board of Game is accepting public comment on all proposals for the Western Arctic Western Region meetings until January 12th, 2024. The Board of Game provides an easy, effective way for you to state your support or opposition of these proposals. You can let your voice be heard by submitting your written comments here, and there is a click link.
Good. So we'll get the link to this article and maybe put it in the show notes so people can find it pretty easy.
Yes.
And then, but yeah, if you have an opinion, I mean, honestly, one way or the other, make your voice heard, because at least then the majority does rule, right? Like, at least then the people that are involved in it, that have made their opinion stated, get what they want.
Now,
you pointed out the dangers of just sitting back, and we talked about it at length in the last episode, of just pacing in your living room and being upset about something and not saying anything. Don't fall into that trap.
Exactly.
Now
for the tinfoil hat perspective on this.
Okay.
Because
we're getting into that early in this episode.
Because I have one of those about this particular ordeal.
Nice. I love tin hat.
These proposals are being brought by these working groups.
So it's an interesting thing, because I just looked up the Western Arctic Caribou Herd Working Group, and I looked at their website. And I mean, I didn't extensively click around and read newsletters and stuff, but just the brief amount of information I saw on their website, there's nothing even about the proposal. Which it said they were listed as one of the sponsors of the proposal. But there was also a quick list of like changes to things with the herd, and they actually decreased the number of bulls to cow ratio required, which non-residents can only shoot bulls for the most part, right?
Yep. Bull only.
I don't know. The data that they listed, just the raw data, does not seem to support in any way.
Yeah. Well, and just to clarify too, we've talked a lot about different groups. They are not an anti-hunting group. Just so everybody knows. Like they're a.
Who is behind those groups?
That's where it really comes into.
Is it locals? Is it?
They're biologists. They're people that used to hunt up there.
They're locals.
Yeah,
but I think it's very much more. It's going to be there's a good chance like that group. And I might be speaking completely out of turn here. I do not know this for sure, but there's a very good chance they're the kind of people who, if they could shut us out because we don't live there, they would.
That's what I said earlier. The next step is non-locals,
right?
Not just non-residents. Subsistence only.
Subsistence for people who live there only.
It's always a possibility that that's on the table. And that's where you got to be careful.
Yeah. So my theory is on this. If the state shoots this proposal down, shoots both of them down, both from the Western Arctic Caribou Herd Working Group and the Northwest Arctic Regional Advisory Council, because both of them have a dog in this fight.
Mhm.
They're both lobbying for the closure for non-residents. If the state says no, this does not match our data, this is not a good move, because the state also has to consider revenue that is brought in by the non-resident hunters who pay the charters to fly out, who pay the guides to fly out. And then in turn, the money goes back into the state and through a trickle-down effect through the charters buying avgas and through the guides paying for licensing and trophy care and taxes and everything else. What if the state says no, we want non-residents to continue? Their impact is minimal on the population. As you know, as a greater perspective, it's not making an impact. If anything, subsistence hunting, shooting cows and calves, is making more of an impact, which it certainly is. If the state says no, what if these two agencies take this to the feds?
It's always possible.
And then we get an emergency closure.
I don't know if does that depend on land ownership?
It does.
It does.
Yeah. I don't know how that all
But there is
plays out
certainly
in that
BLM
area.
land
Oh, sure.
and federal land all through that part of the
Would
state.
that just make that fun? Whose land am I on today?
Yeah.
We're going to be corner hopping fences.
Exactly.
In the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
Corner crossing.
Or corner crossing
in Alaska. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm getting at, is at what point does the state have to say, well, okay, I'll back up here. A few months ago, I ran into an individual that I wish I could name, but he is involved in the federal management side of things. He doesn't want to be named. He doesn't want any information about him out there. But I talked to him at length about these specific things, asking him, why are the feds doing this? What is the reason behind this? Is it just a conspiracy theory to try to take away hunting rights? And he said, no, it's not. He's a hunter himself. He said, and even though a lot of the federal guys, like myself, don't always go for these proposals, the emergency closures still happen because it looks like the state isn't doing anything to help it.
Yeah, I could see that.
In a state of complacency, the feds feel obligated, motivated by these agencies like these working groups and these advisory councils, to come in and say, well, the state refuses to do anything about it. We're looking to you, federal management. Will you help us?
Yeah.
And he said, so that is where we step in and say, all right, emergency closure, because the state refuses to do anything about it. Now, I don't think that covers everything.
Right.
That definitely does not cover like that sheep closure that we had in August of last year, where they closed it a few days before opener.
Right.
Where 1.4 rams on average get harvested in that unit per year.
Right.
That's complete hogwash. That was not for that reason. But in other situations, he said that has happened.
I could see that.
Now,
which I still don't agree with, but
I don't agree with that either.
I understand the logic of how
because
they got there.
it circumvents the state's right to manage its resources.
Yeah.
However, the federal government has a right to manage the state's resources when the state is complacent with management. It's a mismanagement of a natural resource at the end of the day. And that's how the feds can go around that. So that's kind of a...
Yeah.
Is it true or is it not? And if the state... Now, we all know here that the state saying no to this proposal is not complacency.
No.
It is trusting the biologists' opinions and the long game of, look, caribou ebb and flow. They go up, they go down. It's just part of how caribou are. We trust...
They're like the stock market, man.
Yeah.
It's like...
We trust the seasons and bag limits for residents, non-residents, and subsistence that we've had in place for decades now, and that we have adjusted based on populations. Maybe we'll adjust a few of the bag limit numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe...
Because in some of those areas...
maybe we'll change some of that.
Yeah.
Right. But if the state doesn't do anything, that does not inherently imply complacency on the part of the state.
Right.
It might mean that we just trust our biologists and we have the data and the numbers. And the fear is then the feds will look at that and say, they're not doing anything about it. We're going to close it.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on it. If you care about hunting caribou and you're a non-resident, Or if you're a resident and you care about it, which you should,
Mhm.
because you're next. If you live in a big city and you don't qualify for subsistence, you're next. We've seen that happen many times.
Right. Yeah.
Comment.
So on the tinfoil hat thing, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring on that.
Go for it.
So you've heard about this. I almost guarantee it when there was a little controversy over the BLM director that was appointed under this administration, Tracy Stone Manning. While she was in college, she got in trouble for being part of a group that was spiking trees
Yes, I did hear about that.
where they were doing logging.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So she's obviously,
No
at least at that
kidding.
time of her life, was very, very
Mhm.
anti-impact, which most anti-impact people are anti-hunting.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
They go hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have any other. And what department shut down the federal area?
Yeah.
BLM.
Mm,
Right.
right.
So
yeah.
All of this comes from a backing higher up on the ladder.
Yep.
Get out there and vote in 2024 for the guy in the big house. That's all I'm going to say, because if we don't get a chance to change the leadership from the top down,
Yeah.
then this trend will continue.
Well, and here's a caveat to that. You do need to change it from the top down. You also need to change it from the ground up.
yes.
A lot of people don't pay enough attention to local stuff going
Mhm.
on, and then local stuff goes awry and
Yep.
then goes
mhm.
upwards as well, and then
Yep.
gets to the top. So it's you've got to care about it on both sides. You can't
as the resident are the ground.
right.
It starts with you.
Like-
you are
Right.
the foundation of the government.
yeah.
So if you don't say anything in the comment period
Mhm.
against proposals like this, then you've got nothing to complain about when it comes down from the top. And you say, well, this is unconstitutional. Well, did you comment?
Yep.
Did you go to the weekly meetings or monthly meetings?
Yep.
You know?
And I know a lot of guys that are just avid hunters. They love the outdoors in Alaska, and they go to every meeting. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily involved. They're not on the boards. They're not on the committees.
Yeah.
But they go every week, and they stay informed. And because all of these boards and all of these committees care what the public thinks. That's why
Yeah.
they're there,
Yeah.
is to hear you. And so if you put yourself in a position to be heard, that's really the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah.
But to keep people from, I mean, man, we're already 45 minutes into this show, and I think we spent about equal time on this in the last show, but it is important, guys.
It
and
is.
that's why we
Yeah.
harp on it.
is.
Hopefully you guys aren't too upset with us, but it's important. Keep it in mind.
Yeah.
So let's take a break real quick, and then we'll talk actual, real hunting.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
All right. So I apologize, but I think I skipped one thing here. You said you had one more thing you wanted to talk about before we get into deer hunting?
Yeah, just one more quick thing. This
All
is
right.
on a much more positive note. No tinfoil hat conspiracy theories here.
Big
Emotional
companies-
roller coaster this episode.
Just big companies buying out all the small ones.
Oh, you ruined it. So, the Alaska Gear Company. Some people know of the long-time brands of Alaska Tent and Tarp,
Mm-hmm.
Arctic Oven,
Yeah.
Alaska Bush Wheels.
Yep.
Well, they are all now,
Airframes too, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Alaska Airframes.
Yep.
They are all now under one umbrella of a company,
Mm-hmm.
Alaska Gear Company.
Appropriately named.
It has brought some of the most niche but important sects of Alaska gear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the tundra tires for the Super Cubs that we all fly around in the mountains with.
Yep.
The Arctic ovens that we can camp in 60 below zero with a titanium stove or a buddy heater. And it can be 100 degrees in your tent and 60 below zero outside. Watch a video. I'm not.
I've yet to see them work that good, but they work pretty good.
I'm not kidding.
I doubt for a minute. That
I saw a video 2 days ago with that exact example. 60 below outside, 100 and plus in the ceiling of that tent with a wood stove ripping.
Yeah, I would say you'd have to have it ripping to do that. But yeah.
No,
they work good.
Now it's still 30 degrees on the floor,
right.
But
I was gonna say where you're sleeping. It's still,
Well, that's why you bring a cot. Never sleep on the floor in the winter.
Right.
Never. Anyway, so Arctic oven, bush wheels, making the tundra tires, Alaska airframes, which builds parts for airplanes, struts and airframes. And also, let's see here, they have tent stoves, Alaska tent and tarp, which makes all the wall tents that we see around.
Yep.
They also make these polk sleds, which if you don't know what those are, go to Alaska Gear Company and scroll down through the outdoor gear section, and it's on the second row, the polk sleds, and then they have the freight sleds, bags and packs. They also sell game bags, the old-fashioned cheesecloth game bags that we've all seen for the last, probably all of our lifetimes in Sportsman's Warehouse and Frontier. And then they have some duffel bag options as well. And then also that there are other aviation gear. They've got Alaskan bush wheels, wheels and brakes, tail draggers, lift struts, pistol flaps, landing gear, fuselage, bush plane modifications, stall kits, aircraft maintenance. I mean, these guys are doing everything.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this. They've actually got a really good Instagram showing.
They do.
Too, and it's managed very well. They display things very well.
Yep.
Actually, their most recent project.
Which is what brings me to my introduction of this is the bunny boot. Or as some of the lower 48s would call them, Mickey Mouse boots.
Yeah.
If you live in Alaska, that they're called bunny boots.
That's the bunny boot.
Yeah. And for the last...
Older than me.
For the last many, many, many years, you've only been able to find them at like the Army surplus stores. And good luck finding them in your size.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody that
or in good condition.
Right. That's why everybody that that wears bunny boots has 3 or 4 pairs of them. Because when they wear one set out, they have to switch to the next ones.
Yeah.
So Alaska Gear Company is redoing the bunny boot. And they're going to produce it.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited for that.
those that don't know, it's a heavily insulated winter boot. This is not a sheep hunting boot.
Far from it. This is a winter caribou boot.
This is like snow machining or winter camping.
Ice fishing boot.
Ice fishing.
You're not hiking very far, very fast.
No, definitely not. But heavily insulated with a rubber exterior finish.
So I have a question. I don't know if you've looked in this. I did see a quick video about the fact that they redesigned.
Yes.
And they're making them.
Yes.
Does it still have the air bladder inside? Because that's what made the original bunny boot so good.
I didn't see a valve on them.
So they may have done it without a valve because a lot of people,
now
you had to open the valve if you were flying.
Right.
And I don't know about that. It was the fact that there was an air.
Yes.
It's because it would build pressure if you didn't.
Right. If when you're flying. But I mean, the air in there itself was kind of the genius of it and why it worked so good.
Right.
Before synthetic insulation and all this kind of stuff.
And that was just it is with the bunny boots. Like even if you got water inside of them, as long as you stayed moving and kept your feet warm, the water would become warm and then your feet would stay warm. That's not true in every case. I know a guy that unfortunately lost a couple toes.
I mean, if it's cold enough, it's cold enough.
Yeah, he was like hours from the cabin.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole system of just, locking that air inside your foot, it worked good.
Yeah.
I've worn them in very, very cold weather.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint, and why I'm excited that they're making new ones, is because, and you can sometimes find brand new ones, sometimes, there's the black bunny boots and the white bunny boots. And the black ones I've noticed you can find brand new a lot more often.
Really?
I'm not 100% sure what the difference is. The white ones I know are the ones I was given in the Army.
Yeah.
I don't know if the black ones are just a different model or a different manufacturer.
Seemed to me like the black ones weren't as heavily insulated.
Maybe that's the difference. I've never owned one of those.
Yeah.
But my biggest issue is post military because I didn't keep mine. I gave them back to the Army. because they keep track of what they give you and you have to give it back, or otherwise you pay for it. But is because they're all so heavily worn by the time they get to the surplus stores.
Yeah.
Because they've been given to 10 different soldiers before they decide they're not good enough for commission.
Mm-hmm.
The tread is always so bad.
And
I
I grew up thinking they just weren't designed with good tread, which might have been part of it.
It wasn't great to begin with. By the time you get them, that's real bad.
Just down to the wire on this.
So you have to wear yak tracks or some sort of boot chain.
Yeah, and you see a lot of guys doing that.
Yeah,
They just have a little pullover micro spikes.
Yep, exactly. And that combo is a great combo.
These ones look like they've got a lot better tread.
Yeah, they're shaped a little bit differently too.
Yeah, they are. They are. The lacing system looks a little bit better too.
Does it? Yeah. That was the one thing I hated about bunny boots.
I didn't like tying them either. I thought they were awful.
The laces were always too short.
Yeah,
and they cut your hands trying to tie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It cut your hands. Because it all came with bad laces. But also on top of that, the way that the lacing system was designed was you had those folds in the rubber that if you didn't get the folds quite right, and for me, I always managed to get a fold right on the top of my foot.
That got them skinny little legs.
No. No. It was because I have wider feet than normal.
Yeah.
And the way that the folds on the tongue came over on my foot, it didn't have enough overlap to get the overlap to the middle. So it would pull one side off, and then I would get that overlap seam right on the top of my foot, and it would cut off circulation.
I would say,
completely ruins the point of having a warm boot.
Two issues. You either lose circulation or you can't make a good seal.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just that, chafing and,
after hours and hours of wear.
So anyway, big things coming from Alaska Gear Company. I've heard a few other rumors of things that are not released yet, haven't even been teased yet on their website or on their social media. The bunny boot release is not on their website yet. It's only on their Instagram.
No, it's in final testing phase.
Yeah, they are looking and right now picking 30 people to final test them.
Yeah.
And, people that go through them and use them a lot, trappers and, all kinds of guys, snow machine racers and guys that are out exposed a lot in the elements.
Yeah.
Are just looking for testers.
Yeah. If you're part of the Fairbanks ATA, call these guys up.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So anyway, big things to come from them. I'm sure we'll be talking about them again down the road.
One thing I'm really excited for is their addition to, or they're bringing in of the Arctic ovens too.
I was just going to talk about that.
They've already got a new tent.
Yeah. The one that I'm super excited to get, that I didn't know they had for the longest time until I started looking into them. Because for a long time, I knew Arctic ovens were a thing. I just knew I wasn't in that tax bracket yet. But I might be now. I'm older. But they have an 8-person teepee tent.
Yes.
And the thing I love about it, so like you really like your Peaks teepee because it has the slot for you to put your trekking poles to act as rafters.
Yep.
The Arctic oven teepee has poles that you put in, 4 different ones, short ones. And what it does is it just holds the tension on the corners.
Yes.
Probably what is it, like 6.5, 7 feet up on the side of the walls. And it just creates so much more walkable space of actual head space inside that thing. And it's a pretty awesome design.
That's
when I saw it.
the same way that I like my Peaks teepee.
The base tent without the insulating inner layer that they give you, which is that's what makes Arctic ovens so great and why they always work so well, is you had a thick layer, almost it felt like insulation that you would put up first, and then you put the main tent and waterproofing over it, and it was that 2-layer. That's what made them why you can 100 degrees and 60 below, right?
Yeah.
Well, so obviously this one's not quite like that. It's a backpack tent. The tent itself, I believe, with the poles, without the insulating layer inside, so floorless, is 4.6 pounds.
Really? From Arctic oven?
Yes.
Really?
The insulating layer is a 1.7. So, I mean, you're...
No kidding.
8 pounds, and you've got floorless
How many person tent is this?
It's 8. 8-person tent. With the stove, they say it's 4.
No kidding. Dome style?
No, this is the TP style.
I thought the TP was like 7.5 pounds.
Are you looking at the Noon Attack Apex, Mariah?
Yes.
So that is...
I knew it was lighter than most.
There are a lot of options here, but that can't be a
the
4-pound tent.
By itself, they say
really
is 4.6 pounds. It says packed weight, 4.6 pounds.
Now that's probably without a center pole and the rafters.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I could have swore I heard
I'll bet you that's just the shell.
I could have swore I heard it was 7.5 pounds. I might, we'll have to do research on that.
That might be, that's probably with the insert. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, and they have a lightweight, well, the lightweight ground cloth is 4.6 pounds.
That might be what it is. If it has the insert and the poles and everything, maybe that adds up to a total of like somewhere in the ballpark of 8 pounds.
Because it's 7 foot 6 feet.
Even then, an 8-pound tent, that's not bad.
For an Arctic oven?
Yeah, for an Arctic oven.
Capacity with stove is 4-person. Capacity without stove is 8-person.
Yeah.
Packed weight, 4.6. Insert weight, 1.7. Yep. Half ground cloth, 4.6 pounds. Heavyweight ground cloth is 10.7 pounds. Packed size. So if you get the full ground cloth, that's pushing 11 pounds right there.
Okay, yeah.
The insert is 1.7. So now you're looking at almost 13 pounds. And then the packed weight of just the shell. Right. So yeah, it's still not a lightweight tent.
But you could. I mean, it's a lot lighter weight than any other Arctic oven they've got. I mean,
but that's not really the tent though. That's just the rainfly.
True,
that's just the outside.
That's all your Peaks tent is a rainfly.
Sure.
That's what they're
but
saying
it's not
is you
Arctic
can use
grade, though.
You can use the tent by itself, in the summertime at a lightweight.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then,
you're right.
I mean, realistically, come on, even if it is a 10, 11 pound tent for an Arctic oven, 4-person with stove, that's a good deal. Like
anything 15 pounds and under is a lot easier than a 30+ pound.
Now, without the insert or anything, it's $1,595.
Yeah,
that's the tent with the poles.
Arctic ovens aren't cheap. No, none of them are.
But that's why everybody that with one has had one for a long time and they last.
On that note, one thing to consider: the only horror story I've ever heard about Arctic ovens is moisture control. Because it's a thicker material and because it's it's insulated, right? If you get any kind of condensation buildup in there, say you're running a propane heaters build condensation, or it gets wet in some capacity. And this is a good practice with any tent, but you have to make sure you get it dried up properly and thoroughly before putting it away for the season. And
that's where something like an actual wood stove makes a huge difference because it's dry heat and it will suck the moisture out of the air.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So running a wood stove in there, but even whatever you have to run, but just making sure it's perfectly dried before you put it away, because the thicker material, I have heard, once you get mildew introduced to that, it's very hard, if not impossible, to get out.
Yeah.
So maintenance is key to making these things last, but they will last generations if you take care of them.
Yeah, I've spent a number of nights hunting out of Arctic ovens in older ones, in some of like the 4-person models.
Yep.
In the yellow one, that it pitches with like the 4-pole design, very similar to like that Barney's bomb shelter style of tent, and that one had the insulating liner in it as well. And if you pitch them right, where the fly is not in contact with that inner lining, then the moisture control is phenomenal. It's really, really good when you have a heat source in there. If you don't have any way to burn a heat source in there throughout the hunt, then it can get a very damp feel to it.
Yeah.
But if you're using an Arctic oven, you're probably going to be using some kind of a heat source.
Yep.
I was using them in the fall in like September. We didn't need Arctic ovens. We just used them because we had them, and why not?
Yeah. It is a one tent, and you got it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's pretty neat to see those things coming from now. I'd like to try one of those tents in the winter.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's an investment.
And if it's gonna, and built from a quality company, out of quality materials.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's a buy once, cry once scenario, I'm okay with it.
And their customer service is phenomenal.
Yeah. If I could have an Arctic oven and a Peaks Solitude, I don't think I'd need another tent.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, because any hunting I do outside of those 2 tents, I won't be in a tent. So
I probably wouldn't take my Peaks 4-man sheep hunting.
you don't think so?
No.
Too big of a footprint?
As a matter of fact, I will not take it sheep hunting. I'll just go ahead and say that. It's too big of a footprint.
Yeah.
I've camped in spots where there's just enough room for me to lay down on a level spot.
Right.
I need a tiny little footprint dome tent that is freestanding.
Yeah.
That I can guy out with rocks.
I could see the benefit to that. Yeah.
So for that, I prefer a 2-man if I can. If not, then like I think I'm interested in trying that 1-man tent from Stone Glacier, the Solus.
Oh, I have one of those in my kit. Are you talking about just the tarp?
No.
Like no. Okay. No.
That is a different.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it only weighs like 8 ounces.
Yeah,
and it's a little 1-person thing.
Yeah.
It's
a bivvy basically.
Basically, yeah, and they sell inserts for it too.
Yeah,
which they have like a bug net and tub base insert.
But that's not freestanding though.
No, it's not. You need. I think it goes up with your trekking poles.
Yeah. Yep, it does.
It's also a front entrance, not a side entrance, which some people don't like. But
it's just a glorified tarp tunnel is all it is.
That's exactly what it is.
I can do the exact same thing with my Sitka Gear tarp and just pitch with 2 poles. But no, I think a freestanding tent, the one that I've used the most is that MSR 2-man Hubba tent.
Hubba.
And it works good. I've had it on a lot of hunts in the mountains. It's a great tent, but I think it looks like Stone Glacier improved upon that overall design with their Skyscraper 2-man dome tent. And it looks like the 1-person version is a little bit stronger even then.
Okay.
Not as much room inside. With a 1-person tent, it's pretty snug. But the advantages of being able to pitch that thing anywhere.
Yeah.
That you have 2 feet of width and 6 foot of level ground, or at least somewhat sloped so I can put my head up on the top.
Right.
Anywhere I can fit that footprint, I can put it right there in a 6x2 area and then guy it out with rocks. Can't do that with a teepee.
That's true.
So
that's very true.
That's why with sheep hunting, I stick with a freestanding tent.
I know previously I'd really been eyeballing that Stone Glacier, what is that, the Skyscraper?
Yeah, Skyscraper 2-man.
Skyscraper 2-person.
Yeah.
Because for a 2-person tent, it probably has the biggest footprint I've seen. It's actually long enough that a guy like me can lay down comfortably in it.
Yep.
It's wide enough that I could put all of my gear inside. But even if not, for whatever reason, it has the double vestibule, which is, I believe, 3 foot on each side at the longest point.
Yeah, the MSR
it's
is
triangular,
the same way.
but it's and I really, really like that design.
Yeah.
It's a real solid looking tent.
You can have 2 people inside of there and each person's gear underneath the vestibule on each side.
They've each got their own vestibule.
Yeah, you can each enter from your own side. And it's tight sleeping in there, but you know what? It is what it is.
You know what? If we're going hunting together, we're probably that,
Yeah.
Well, we're probably cool, but
you mean you're not going to be the guy that says, you better have brought your own tent because you're not sleeping with me.
Now,
that depends on how bad you snore, bud.
If I am guiding, then I'm a lot more likely to bring a 1-person tent.
Absolutely.
A lot more.
No, that makes sense.
Because I hardly ever have a client that wants to double up in a tent. Usually they've got enough of their own stuff.
And that's more of a professional.
I don't know them.
Yeah, that's a professional relation.
Yeah, I don't know them. They don't know me. There's plenty of guys that double up in tents with clients, and that's fine. And I wouldn't have any problem with it. But the outfitters that I've worked for always provide an extra tent, or the client brings their own tent.
Right.
So then usually I either bring my 2-man or I'll bring a 1-man.
Yeah.
And a 1-man being a lot easier to pitch in small areas, I'm probably going to lean towards that tent for next fall for guide work because I want to try it and it looks strong and it's a 4-season rated tent.
Did you say it's only 2 feet wide?
No, I only need a spot 2 feet wide that's just wide enough for me to sleep on.
Gotcha.
And even 2 feet wide is a bit much. I mean, sleeping pad is pretty narrow these days.
Slip sideways, and
which I do. Yeah, I'm a side sleeper. Yeah.
With that, I went hunting with a guy one time, and it was a road hunt with wheelers. We got out there and we were going to ride in and camp and hunt, and we were looking for access. We were told there was access. We still haven't found it.
I recall that.
But we got out in one spot and beautiful country, no moose. But
bad intel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We couldn't get to the spot we were told we should be able to get to. That was the issue. But anyhow, all that aside, we're driving down there. I think we brought separate trucks, even like separate trucks, separate gear, everything. We get
That's
out there,
right.
and he's like, "You better have brought your own tent," which I had because I thought I don't know if he's going to bring a tent or whatever. So I grabbed my tent. I brought a 4-man, and he brought a 4-man, and like.
And he's out there pumping up his air mattress.
I think, yeah, maybe. I don't remember. That could have happened. I could see that.
Man.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. I mean, I definitely have an air mattress that goes along on certain trips. But
I would say if I'm not packing in anywhere,
summer
then
camping
why
with the
not?
family.
But-
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
dude. Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anybody that brings an air mattress.
I went hunting with somebody.
If
one
I had
time.
one, I'd do it.
He had an 8-man Cabela's geodesic.
Mm.
And he had one of those air mattresses. It's like 16 inches thick.
Nice.
Whoa.
Like king size. Yeah.
Just plug it into the 4-wheeler with the converter and charging it up.
Oh yeah, he had every. I mean, good night. That dude.
Nice. That's hunting in luxury right there.
It was wheeler hunting. We get out there. He's like, I said, so because I went out there with a tarp and a sleeping bag because I was just wheeler hunting. I wanted to be light and fast.
Yeah.
The first night I was out there by myself. I found a tree by a creek, set my sleeping bag, set the tarp up in the tree. I was amazing. It was raining just a little bit. I had a book with me. I'm 20 yards, 30 yards off the main trail.
Yeah.
It was the nicest night. I think one of the nicest nights I've ever spent in the woods because it was warm and comfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm in my sleeping bag under this tarp with a little bit of drizzle. I'm cooking chili in the jet boil, reading a book. It just so nice.
Nice.
So the Stone Glacier 1-person soulless tent. Packed weight is 4 pounds, 6 ounces. That includes rain fly, tent body, web truss, 2 poles, 14 stakes, 14 guy lines. Only 8 are needed to pitch the tent minimally. So it comes with a bunch of extras for when it's
windy.
Things inevitably break.
Yeah, which is just for when sheep country lives up to being sheep country.
Mm-hmm.
And then accessories, which is a repair sleeve, clips, and stuff sacks. So that's 4 pounds, 6 ounces, which is a little bit less than what I've got with my MSR tent with all the guy lines I've got on it and all the stakes that I carry and the repair kit. So it's a touch lighter, but it does look like a little bit stronger design inherently.
Well, cool.
But anyway.
Well, that'll be good in that country for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to try it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it out. I've got some new spots I'll be. Need to be up high where the camping is small and maybe the animals are big. We'll find out.
There you go.
if you can find them.
Yeah, well, that's always the challenge. But all right, so the part we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Tell us your tale.
Well, for the 8th year in a row, we returned for our annual Southeast Alaska punishment. And we didn't get punished.
Yeah.
It was kind of a walk in the park.
Let's just say, I mean, this was the 3rd time I went.
Yep.
And I didn't know Southeast Alaska could be so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Not hunting wise, not trip wise, but weather and just like, I mean, we had at least one day where I don't know if we saw a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Glassy water.
No,
like you can see the
kidding.
reflection of the mountains in the water.
Yeah.
I mean, just
like being out in a big pond.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It was anything. I've never seen anything like it. It's like what you see in pictures of Southeast Alaska, right?
Right, yeah.
The things that we watch tourist pictures of and say it's never like that.
Exactly.
The 4 days a year that it does. Yeah. You guys caught one of them?
We caught all 4 of them, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
In our 5-day hunt.
Yeah. It started out with a little bit of bad weather. You know, it was living up to its reputation.
Yeah.
We got into town where we were kind of, frog hopping out of. And we were trying a new spot. And Moe and I got in a day before my buddy Remy did. He was getting home from work. And he was going to come down a day later. And we had arrangements for him to get out to camp, out to our spike camp out there where we were going to be, and meet up with us after Moe and I had a day to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that didn't work out. Moe and I got stuck in the town that we flew into for an extra day, just staring at the hotel window, watching the rain drip the side of the building going, is it ever going to stop? And it was 2 big systems that kind of worked through back to back right as we were in town. So it was just a bad time to get out of there.
Right.
So we held off. We waited, went and I don't know, ate deep fried pickles and shot
We
pool
did,
and
yeah.
just, hung out in town and decided to go out the next
Sounds
day.
really rough.
Oh, it was rough in it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
We had to
It-
walk through the rain.
Oh, no.
It was a suffering. Yeah, it's a suffering event. So anyway, my buddy got in the next day, Remington, and he landed, and we hustled and launched the boat and took off. And it was a bit of a bumpy ride out to where we were going to camp, but it wasn't bad.
Mhm.
It was drizzly, but nothing that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
The big difference was the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So last year, I don't know if anybody will remember, if you go back and listen to our initial episodes about deer hunting down there, we recapped our hunt from last year. And basically the whole driving word of that last year's hunt recap was brr.
Yeah.
It was cold the whole time.
Yeah.
We saw temperatures in the single digits at night
Mhm.
several times.
Oh, yeah.
And not nearly as much rain as is normal, like in November around the rut time.
No, there was the
But-
one day. My
yeah,
goodness.
Yeah. But even when it wasn't raining, we had quite a bit of snow and a lot of overcast, a lot of, kind of windy, choppy water days. But this year, looking at the forecast for that part of the state leading up to the hunt, I was just getting increasingly more and more depressed.
Yeah.
I would look
I
at the
remember
forecast and my wife would ask, "What's the weather down there looking like?" And 45 and raining. And for the next 10 days, it all says rain.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And it stayed that way right up until we left and came back to Fairbanks to 20 below. It was above freezing and rained almost the whole time leading up into that hunt, which means that there's going to be very little snow on the beaches in the low country, which means all the post-rut bucks that aren't interested in chasing does anymore are going to be hightailing it up into the old growth and staying
Right.
up there, not coming down to feed on the beach, which is kind of the entire tactic of going in December anyway, is to, not guarantee, but give yourself a higher chance of coming home with more meat.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that December hunt is not a trophy buck hunt. We have not killed our trophy bucks in December.
Right.
We
right.
shoot more deer in December, but we don't shoot the quality of deer that we shoot in November. Which is why a strategy may be changed the next trip or two and go a different time, because it's a lot of fun calling in big bucks.
Right.
But again, for that time of year, we just decided for the last few years we were going to go in December and just go and get the quantity. We all love deer meat. I think it's my favorite deer meat.
It's phenomenal.
I think it's my favorite meat of the entire state, honestly.
It really
I've had a lot of sheep. I've had muskox. I've had bison. I've had Roosevelt elk. I've had obviously a ton of moose and caribou and black bear. And honestly, black bear doesn't fall below sheep by much for me. I think it's really close between black bear and Dall sheep. Just because
Really?
I love black bear that much.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I do
so
too.
greasy and
Yeah.
fatty. I
It's
just
a
love
good meat. It
black
has
bear.
really good flavor.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really love the flavor of black bear meat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so point being, we all wanted to shoot a bunch of deer again. So why not just go in December again when there's going to be snow and it pushes them down low?
Mhm.
Well, it wasn't like that. We got out there, set up camp, and the first night that we spent in camp, we got like a foot of snow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
And we thought, well, maybe this won't be too bad after all. Maybe we're out of town far enough this time that it's a lot colder out here, which it was that day. And we shot at a deer that day.
Right.
Yeah. That day, beginning of day one, I believe, Mo and Remy and I were headed out to a spot to go try somewhere and just do some glassing. And Remy and I, right about the same time, spotted a real nice buck.
That was the second morning.
Was it the second
It was
morning?
the second morning because it was your turn to shoot.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So the first day, we made it onto a deer in the morning.
I believe it was
believe.
mid-morning, yeah.
And we pulled into shore. We were just cruising around in some of the back channels and some of the bays. And so we put in around the corner from where we saw this deer working down the beach, got out. Remington was up to shoot first since he'd spotted it. So he worked his way up around the corner. I think Mariah or myself, we made sure the boat wasn't going to bump into anything while we were sitting there. At incoming tide, so we'd put out the anchor, and it was on on kind of a grassy, muddy shelf. So we all three, which is uncommon. Usually when you beach the boat, just one or two people goes up and makes a shot, and then somebody stays with the boat. Make sure it doesn't bang up against the rocks. But we left it there because it was a good spot, and we had incoming water. Yeah. Because if you have outgoing water and you walk away for too long, then you got your work cut out for you.
Make sure you brought your camp.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, there's a good chance you might be sitting there for about the whole of the tide cycle, which nobody likes doing. So anyway, we worked our way up around the corner, and this deer was feeding in right towards us coming down the beach. He didn't have any idea we were there. I had him in the binos. Mariah had him on the camera, I think. And Remington got set up. And Moe and Remington both this year, you should talk about this. He brought a piece of kit. Remington got set up to shoot. And he fired once. The deer jumped up into the willows a little bit, stood there, looked unfazed. And I said, he's still right there. Take another shot. And so Remington, quick on the bolt, fired again. And a branch up and over its back broke and fell down. And
Oh,
said,
no.
Well, you missed him by a mile again. And he said, what's going on here? And so he said, I don't know what's going on. And he ended up missing a total of 3 times.
Wow.
At like 85 or 90 yards. And so we came away from that going, well, we didn't have time to shoot his gun after he flew in from Anchorage. So your gun's obviously off by a couple of feet.
I was going to say, because for reference sake, this is somebody you've shot
Oh, yeah.
several hundred yards with multiple times.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Remington knows how to shoot animals.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any problem in the
that is an
marksmanship
oddity.
department. Yeah. So anyway, he missed that one, which I was okay with because it put me up next to shoot if I spotted before Mariah did.
Well, and the crazy thing about that is that was day one, and we saw 3 deer.
Yeah.
With a chance on one.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a chance on one of the 3 deer.
And we killed a couple of ducks that day, maybe?
I don't think we got any that day.
No? Okay.
Mm.
We weren't really. I don't think we even brought the shotguns that day. We were like, let's focus on deer.
That's right. That's right.
We saw 3 deer on the first day.
Yeah.
Which was, we were headed back as it was getting dark going, guys, we've seen 3 deer on day 1.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, last year we saw
nothing for the first 3 days.
no deer in 3 days. Exactly.
Right.
And working really hard to try to find them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like, well, this is going to be a good hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. The numbers looked up everywhere that we put in to go walk around and look around on the beaches for signs. There was tracks everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Every little group of like those poplar trees where the bucks rub in November, every one of those was just all scraped up. I mean, it was a mess in there.
Nice.
I was really wishing I'd been there in November. You'll notice I keep alluding to that. So anyway, day 2 comes around early in the morning. We were around in the bend going into this channel on the way to a familiar area, but going through there on the way to a new spot to go try it. And I looked up the coast a little ways, and Remington looked around his shoulder. I was running the boat, and he looked over his shoulder, and at the exact same time, we both said, "Deer." And I said, "Yeah, and it's a buck, too." Just with my naked eye.
Yeah.
I could tell it was a buck.
Did you guys have to like Rochambeau for it, or
Well,
did you guys do shooters?
No, he had missed the next day,
yeah.
or the previous day on day 1, and I spotted it before Mariah did, so I was up next to shoot.
There you go.
So
He's in the front of the boat, and 2 guys sitting in front of me, and he spotted it before me. You know, big.
yeah, I mean, Mariah's back there fiddling with the camera, and,
Trying to glass, but these guys are in my way.
just glass from the back of the boat, Mariah.
Unsportsmanlike contact, foul on the play.
Yeah. 2-minute minor for interference.
But let's move on to what happened next.
So anyway, we made it into 500-600 yards away from this buck, and he was moving for the trees. He was out of the tree line, out on the probably 200 yards, if that, maybe 150, and he was walking briskly.
Mm-hmm.
Like those big bucks don't spend any extra time on the beach than what they absolutely have to. And I got him in the binos while we were, kind of nosing in quietly, just trying to get up away from him. And then I was going to, get out in my hip waders with my rifle and tripod and then just move towards him and just try to get within. In an ideal world, in that situation, I wanted to be under 350 for that shot. So I got out of the boat, And Remy and Mariah both stayed back. Mariah was in knee boots that day, and so I had to go across tide flats, across a couple of little inlets, and it was going to be too deep for his knee boots anyway. Yeah. And I was in a hustle, and I said, just stay here.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody else out there that could spook this buck because it's a big deer. And the one look in the binos that I got at this buck, he was a 4x4 with eye guards, which is a monster buck.
That's pretty good.
For that area of the state, it's a monster buck.
Yeah.
Anybody that hunts blacktails consistently knows. And he had height and he had mass. He didn't have a whole lot of width. He was kind of a compact 4x with eye guards, but still, he had the height and he had the heavy mass.
But that was a gorgeous deer.
Oh, man. You ain't kidding.
Yeah.
And so I, tried to make my approach as quickly but as low to the ground as possible, lighting out across the tide flats.
And 2 feet of water. Yeah.
And in 2 feet of water, incoming tide. And I'm trying not to just, splish, splosh through all that water and make a bunch of noise. But he looked up and looked back at the boat a few times, and he'd look at me, and I'm trying to stay in a straight line, just going at him, not trying to weave and go back and forth. One point, I got just inside 400 yards. I knelt down, set up the tripod, and thought, all right, I'm gonna look at my dope. I'm gonna shoot from here. And he decided that he wanted to walk off right at that point.
Right.
So I looked at my dope, got my holdover, and got my dial up. I had a holdover reticle in that scope, an MOA reticle in that scope. Sorry about that, guys. And right as I got him in the crosshairs, he took off, just bounding through the beach grass, and my heart just sank because I knew that run. Yeah. He wasn't going to stop.
So he did stop, but you couldn't see him.
Yeah, well, he stopped right inside the trees.
Oh, yeah.
I saw his tail there for just a second.
Right.
And he didn't shoot?
He was in plain.
No.
No. So he was in plain sight from where I was. Now I was 600 yards away.
Yeah.
And he stopped. He ran 150 yards closer to you at an angle towards the trees. And then where you couldn't, you saw his tail when he stopped. And he stopped long enough for a shot, but you couldn't see him. So.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And even if you had been set up at 600,
oh yeah, no,
from the time he ran into the trees, you wouldn't have had enough time to readjust your dope to the when he stepped into the brush.
Or even, calculate holdover and all that, and make that shot would have been.
Yeah.
It was just
would have been a Hail Mary.
Yeah, it just wasn't going to work out. And I don't like to just lob Hail Marys at animals. That's just not what I want to do.
Right.
And so, there's morning 2, and we're thinking, man, we saw 3 deer yesterday. We just saw a huge buck this morning. This is going to be great. Of course, the snow was still on the beach that day.
It was.
That day progressed on to, let's see here, what happened that day.
We dropped Remy off that day.
I think you're right. I think we dropped off Remy.
And then we headed off to, do our thing through the bays and the inlets and through the back channels. And
you shot one.
So then I spotted one.
That's right.
Went after it. But I took my 30-30.
Correct.
My Marlin JM stamp 30-30. I was like, I
had to add that JM stamp in there.
Oh yeah. There's certain people here who will just be like, oh, he's got a JM stamp, right?
If you've got one, you got to throw it around. Yeah.
So and now I wasn't the only one that had a Marlin JM stamp on that hunt. 30-30. Remington had one too.
Nice.
Pretty close to the same gun. His was a little bit newer, but almost the same gun.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I decided, you know what? It was a doe. Second day of the hunt. I'm like, you know what? If I can't get close enough and I lose this deer because I'm using the 30-30, I'm probably okay with that.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the 30-30 because I had both rifles in the boat, that and my 300 short mag. Well, what I didn't realize from where we stopped and trying to get on the beach and everything was closest I could get to where I could stop and set up without spooking the deer was about 230 yards.
Yeah.
And this deer is standing with a dark background. I've got stock irons on that 30-30, which are dark.
Yep.
Shooting a 12-inch black square at 100 yards
is,
I can do it. And I've done it enough that I'm confident, very confident, 100, 150 yards, I can group nicely, within a couple inches for that sight. Real good, right?
Yeah.
But 230 yards, had she been standing in the clear and given me a minute to set up and settle down, I probably would have taken the shot. But there was no way. I couldn't tell what was the woods and what was the deer through the sights. Right. And then, of course, we're standing there looking at that deer. And then I look up for a minute and I see another deer out of my corner of my eye. And
that was a doe and a fawn.
It was a doe and a fawn, right?
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
Which you caught on camera without knowing you caught on camera.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
how
even
we
notice
knew-
them. Yeah.
That's how we knew that deer had a fawn. Was later we were reviewing footage.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I didn't get that deer,
Mm-hmm.
and I regretted like, man, if I bought my if I grabbed my 300, I'd have meat, right?
Well, and to that point, one thing that blew my mind last year was the concept of getting your deer eyes
Yes.
on when you first get out there, because it's amazing how well these things blend in. And you've really got to, like, that first day and a half, you've really got to tune your eyes in to look for more than just the silhouette or a color or anything like that. You've kind of got to combine all those features to be able to see these deer, because they can disappear quickly.
I think the biggest trick to it is people that look for deer with the snow as the background.
Yeah.
And they expect every deer, when there's snow on the beach, to just be silhouetted up against the snow.
Right.
And that is not the case.
Mm-mm.
When they're on that beach, they're down below that snow line a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's where the exposed food is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll catch them silhouetted against the snow if there's that much of it, but it's not always the case. And people forget to look below that.
Right.
Even just scanning with your eyes. I mean, you will look right over those
That
deer.
even caught us a couple times last year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
And we did see them, thankfully. But like, you have to remind yourself to look down into the dark spot.
What I always wonder is when we're looking for deer, and we don't buzz around at 40 knots looking for deer.
Yeah.
Cover more ground that way.
I'll leave that there.
Miss more deer that way too.
We look hard for deer, but I still wonder how many deer we passed.
Yeah.
Because we know it happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for those that are wondering about this style of hunt, this is not the type of hunt that we go into it looking to physically challenge ourselves. This is the type of hunt where we go down there to
see how long you can sit on a boat seat hunched over, how many days in a row without not being able to get out of the boat.
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of this is our end of the year relaxation cast and blast, which is what it's become now.
Yeah.
Which kind of foreshadows to what we ended up doing later in the trip. But boat hunting, if you will, some folks frown upon that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They don't think it's sporting. I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of deer around, especially in that part of the state. Probably the best area for population density in the entire state is that general area that I've been hunting for the last 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of locals that do boat hunt.
Yeah.
I call them road hunters because that's their road system.
I was going to say, what's the difference between running a boat on the water
and running a
four-wheeler in Caribou country?
Yeah, exactly.
Running a four-wheeler in Caribou country is easier.
right.
Exactly.
You can still, it's not like you can see any farther with the boat.
There's less stuff that's going to rip your lower unit off in the tundra than there is in the saltwater.
Guess what? You can jump right off your wheeler and shoot.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Like without having to find a place to like pull in or like, do anything like that. Like,
exactly. Yeah. You can't shoot from a boat.
Yeah.
Not in that part of the state.
Yeah. I think a majority of the state, right?
Depends on the animal. Depends on a lot of things. Depends on the
but for deer specifically, I think there's only some places in Kodiak that you might be able to do it.
You can get a disability.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. You can get like a senior's permit. To be able to shoot from a boat if you qualify. Anyway, but just to clarify for folks, when we say cruising around looking for deer, we're not just, goggles on, full throttle, zipping around looking for deer. We pull into a bay and we'll sit there for a while and just, shut off the motor and just drift and just glass and glass and glass and glass during those prime time hours. Now, talk about that tool that you and Remington both brought that I mentioned earlier.
All right. So I bought a Primos trigger stick, the Jim Shockey Tall Edition. I'll talk a little bit more about the problems with that in a little bit. But as it functioned great, no problems with the salt water. I oiled the legs up when I got back. There's no signs of rust or anything. It still works flawlessly when you pull the trigger.
Good.
In the cold, it gets stiff.
Yeah.
Especially if it got a little wet. In the cold, it gets stiff. But I bought that, and then I bought the Spartan, just the cheap. Well, the cheap, but nothing from Spartan is cheap. But the lesser cost adapter head
Davros
tripod.
head.
Yeah, Davros. Well, they have the Davros 2.0. I bought the original Davros.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and put that on top of that tripod, and they have a quick select or quick release, so I can actually pull that off and put the original Y back on, or V back on top of that tripod. So say my 30-30, which doesn't have a Spartan adapter.
Yeah.
I can still use that. So and like $250 maybe in the whole setup.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you'd have more. I got the tripod on sale, so you'd probably have closer to $300 if you bought it all at full price.
Yeah.
But it was, I'd looked at the Spartan tripod and I want one.
Yeah.
But they're $1,100.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't really justify that.
Right.
So I bought the Primos and that head, and actually you shot your first deer off of that tripod.
I did.
With the head, and you were blown away at how, because I bought it. Well, and even at the range, I hadn't even shot off the tripod before.
Oh, really?
I'd shot bench and everything. I knew my rifle was sighted in, but we were at the range in town before we went out in the boats testing our rifles, and I shot my 300 once on the bench. I mean, 100 yards, you hit the orange. You know, even if you're touching the orange diamond, you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was one shot, boom, which I felt so good because Dalton had some issues with one of his, and he was sitting there shooting away, and
Yeah.
I pulled my rifle
We'll
out,
get into that later.
shoot once, great. I took like half the diamond.
Yeah.
It was dead nuts.
I jump up on the tripod, like, I better shoot off this thing once, just make sure it's all good.
Right.
Took out the diamond.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, center punched it.
Dead
It was
nuts
just like
again.
at 100, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I can handle that. That's good. I'm gonna put that gun back in the case.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And anyhow, it's a phenomenal tool, and the Davros head, that Spartan adapter head that actually locks it in,
Yeah.
allows you to let the tripod do all the front work,
Yeah.
and you don't even have to put your hand up there. Just
Right.
you can shoot like you're shooting off a bench on your 2 feet.
I remember, you brought it into the studio that one day and we were playing around with it. I really
Right.
like that setup.
Now,
That's
it's not
good.
as sturdy as like a Remington had the
He had the
Tricer?
Tricer tripod with the Spartan adapter,
with the Spartan
head,
adapter head on
okay.
it,
Yeah.
right? And,
which is a lot lighter carbon tripod.
It is, and it's a lot more sturdy though than say there's a lot of wiggle to the Primos trigger stick, but it's not designed to be sturdy. It's designed to be fast, which is why I bought it. And I'm sure the Spartan one you're supposed to be able to like set it up over a hole and rappel into the hole off the tripod.
Right.
Anyhow,
Next time I find myself in that situation,
it was a phenomenal tool.
Yeah.
I was blown away by it. That's going to be, that's going to be on most hunts I go on in the future, because most of the time in Alaska, you do not have the opportunity to shoot at an animal prone.
Right. Yeah.
There are, so
if you're in the mountains,
yes, but
Yeah.
anything else, no.
Anywhere other than the mountains.
You can't, occasionally you'll be on a rise and there's not too much grass and bushes on the rise with you that you can shoot prone, but most of the time you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I just shoot my last moose prone, but he was up high and I was down low, and I found a creek bed that didn't have bushes in it, right?
Right.
Anywhere else there was 2 foot high.
Well, and even when you look at pictures of up here, if you're not from here, and you look at pictures of this grassy field and you'll see a moose standing up and you can see a majority of the moose.
Yeah.
That grass is still 2.5 feet
Right.
tall.
Well, and it's not grass.
Right. Yeah. It's tussocks and
it's those
it's water.
those knee high alder bushes that you try to run 100 yards through and you feel like you ran a mile. And your shins feel.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
being able to shoot sitting or standing is really important.
and you can shoot sitting with it. You can not lock the legs out. Now, this is the issue I had with it. Traveling. I did not have a checked bag that I could fit it in or strap it to well. So I thought, walking stick, should be able to bring that through TSA, right? So I took the spiked feet off the end. I took the top head off the top. I put all that in my backpack, and I just had the stick wrapped up. It kind of looks like a walking stick. So I get to TSA in Fairbanks here. And everybody loves a good TSA story, right? And they asked me, they say, is that a tripod or a walking stick? I said, oh, walking stick. Because it is.
It's a 3-posted walking stick.
Exactly.
And it's got a trigger on it.
Yeah. And they looked and said, oh, you can't take that. Unless you need it for disability, you can't have a walking stick.
You just start
I was like,
limping
really?
all of a sudden.
And I was just kind of like, all right, well, can I make a decision after I go through security? They're like, yeah. So I was going to go through security. I was going to leave my backpack and stuff with Dalton and go take it back to my truck. But they actually carried it around. Didn't put it through a scan or anything. They just carried it around to talk to me about it. And I said, no, it's a tripod. Like, that's really what it's for. I said walking stick because that's what I'm going to do with it for the next, however many hours it is till I get where I'm going. In the airport, it's going to be a great walking stick in the airport, right? And they said, okay, well, you need to be more upfront about that. But since it's a tripod, and they wouldn't let me touch it, but until they were convinced it was a tripod. But
Scary
once
tripod.
I said, if you pull that trigger, the legs will come down and they'll come apart, and you'll see it's a tripod. I have the adapters for it in my bag. I can show you. And they said, okay, no, you're right. It looks like a tripod. You just need to let us know next time that it's a tripod, not a walking stick. So you can draw your own inferences from that. I guess since it's a tripod, I can't hit somebody over the head with it. I don't know. Anyhow,
So
but
they were okay with the tripod, but
Yes.
not the walking
Yes.
stick.
Not the walking
version.
stick.
same exact
Really?
thing, but depending on its title, whether or not I
Nice.
could carry it.
Virtue signaling.
So, and guess what? I used it as a walking stick for a lot longer than I planned because we got flight delays.
oh
and that whole
man,
weather thing.
we got delayed big time.
It was a pain in the rear end, but we got
Yeah.
through all that. Now, because of that, we had to go through security again at another airport.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this security, I said it's a tripod,
Mhm.
and they were very they didn't take it from me till after I went through. They just stopped and looked and said, "Wait a minute, that." I don't know. That looks like you could hurt somebody with it.
That looks
And I
like
said-
a walking stick,
I said
sir.
they let me walk. I said they let me take it through in Fairbanks, and I said it's a tripod that
Mhm.
I've got the gear in my bag for it and stuff. She just looks. She goes, "Okay, well, it's a short flight, and you look like a nice guy, and you're obviously hunting, so just don't hurt anybody with it." So I say that to say, on the way back, Dalton had a bag big enough we could fit it in.
yeah.
If you get it, just specifically the Jim Shockey one, just doesn't collapse down short enough, and you can't take it apart easily. There's
Right.
a lot of little
Right.
tiny parts in that thing.
Right.
If you have a way, if you buy it and you need to travel with it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
either have a big enough duffel bag or something, some way to
Mhm.
strap it to. I'd recommend just checking it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna have a fight in every single.
Well, and that's a good point because TSA is airport by airport. There's a
It
few
is.
things that are
Mhm.
pretty standard, but like the specifics like that,
Well,
like
it's
what
agent to agent,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
shift to shift.
Because like, and especially like Fairbanks being as it's in the middle of
Yeah.
Alaska,
yeah.
everybody in this town has either hunted or knows hunters. And so TSA just sees this stuff coming and going all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're very used to
Yeah.
it. A lot of them probably hunt too or know hunters. And so you can get away with quite a bit
You
as far as, just, yes, this is by the rules. We're not going
Yeah.
to ask you to go above
Right.
and beyond the rules
Mhm.
because we understand it's hunting. You've done what we required of you according to the website,
Mhm.
rules and regulations. That's good enough. Have a good day,
No.
sir. Point in case, like I flew out for a hunt down to the lower 48 one time, and the locks that I had on my gun case they were just fine for
Oh,
Fairbanks
yes.
TSA.
Yes.
I had a lock on every hole on the gun case, which is the rule.
yeah.
They were the correct kind of lock as far as I could tell because they, at least at that time, this was years and years ago, they didn't have like dimensional rules
Yeah.
and lengths and things
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And they just let it go through and cool. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get that rifle out of that case.
Mm-hmm.
On the way back, the loops on the locks were too long apparently, and you could, just barely pry the
Pried
Pry-
open
pried
enough
open.
to maybe get something
just
out.
enough. I mean, you were never going to get that rifle out of there,
Right.
but they wanted to be sticklers about it, and so they forced me. And luckily, there was a store this side of security that had locks, and I was able to buy some locks that matched what they wanted me
So-
to have, and I didn't have to leave the airport.
Let me
But
guess, you bought TSA approved locks or those dinky little ones you could break off with a hammer?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
the little gold ones,
Yeah.
yeah. Put those on there, and suddenly that was way better than my master locks,
Yeah.
heavy duty master locks.
Right.
But
Anybody wearing a pair of steel toe work boots can kick that lock and
Exactly.
break it off of there.
But it's a perfect example. Airport by airport, agent
Yeah.
by agent. You just
Yeah.
do everything you can.
I had in security. I was flying.
You had an insecurity? Sorry, I just
See
I
what
mean,
you did there.
I'm glad you feel comfortable
I was-
enough to talk
just
to us
had a
about it.
jab at you there.
I was flying by myself somewhere, going through security, and I had a thermos with coffee in it in my bag, and I
Oh
just,
yeah.
So I forgot to empty it. Honestly, I just wanted to see if they would catch it or not because it's a metal thermos. I'm like, will they be able to see that there's liquid in there? I did have a plastic lid, so I just left it inside of the bag. Well, I get through security and they say, "Oh, this has liquid in it," and the person there says, "You're gonna have to go back through security, empty it out, and come back through." I was like, "What?" You can't empty it out for me? And she goes, well, let me ask my shift supervisor. So she asked the shift supervisor, and the shift supervisor was like, of course you can empty it for me. Like, what's the big deal? And he goes, well, she looks at me and says, well, my last one would have made you take it back through.
Really?
What a crock of nonsense.
It's like,
man.
I mean, obviously it's a Barney Five stickler of the law kind of guy, but
Yeah.
So get this. Earlier this year, in the springtime, I made it through security accidentally with a Yeti, Nalgene sized 1 liter bottle in the lid of my pack, full of water. Forgot to empty it. Thing went through the scanner. I didn't take the water bottle out of it. They let it go.
Really?
Didn't say a word.
Huh.
But inside of there, I had all my lithium battery banks that you have to have in your carry-on. You're not allowed to have those in your check bags because of fire hazards. And technically, you're supposed to have those on your person. They caught those and didn't even catch the water bottle.
Wow.
Every other time, they'll catch the liquid before and that's the only time I've ever had them catch lithium stuff in my carry-on. Because technically, you're supposed to have those lithiums on your person.
That's not true. Somebody may have said that, but if you go to their website and actually read the rules, you can carry lithium batteries even in your check bag up to a certain size. I have carried DeWalt tools with batteries in my check bags as long as it's
on Alaska Airlines, though?
On Alaska Airlines.
Really?
And even through in a checked bag, one of the other guys carried his batteries for his power tools through
early on
security.
Early on at Alaska Airlines, leaving Fairbanks for that hunt early on, it was like my second year going. I had a bunch of battery banks going down there. And I got told at the check-in, when I was checking in my bags, she said, anything hazardous in here, lithium batteries and, butane, anything that's flammable or hazardous materials. And I said, well, I have batteries in there, just like a lithium battery. And she said, well, you can't have that in there. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do with it? She said, you're supposed to have those on your person. So I took all of them out, dug through my whole duffel bag and found all my chargers and put them in my coat pockets, then got on the airplane, then stuck them in my backpack as soon as I got on the airplane. And so from now on, I've always put all my batteries in my carry-on because that's what they said. I didn't know that there was a limit to the size.
There is on your carry-on too, actually.
Really?
I can't carry on batteries over a certain size. Now, if the battery is in the device it is meant to be used in, you can carry whatever size.
Right.
I think they don't seem to care about that.
Yeah.
Which is actually doesn't make a lot of sense to me because a battery is far more likely to self-destruct if it's in something in contact.
Because I've carried a whole pile of batteries in my carry-on that they've never said anything about.
Now they have to be big, like over 100 watt hours, I think. And like that big battery bank that I bought and brought this year, that's like just under the limit. It was designed just under the limit.
So I flew the DeWalt jumper pack in my checked on bag.
Yeah.
1 year. No problem. There and back.
Did they ask?
No.
So if you get on their website and you read, I'm just say, this is what I do if I'm flying power tools or I have stuff in my bag. Get online, read the rules. I don't remember exactly what the rules were for.
And by the way,
batteries.
That's been over 7 years ago. Okay. So, forget about it.
Forget about it.
So when I was traveling with power tools, I had power tools in my check bag. I had batteries in my check bag.
Yeah.
And on the website, it specifically said batteries under this size can be put in your check bag. They just want like tape around them or something. I watched videos on people who asked questions and called and stuff. And so that's what I did. And when they asked me, is there anything hazardous in your bag? And they went through the list. I said no, because I went by their rules.
Yep.
Well,
that is what I do.
I guess.
That's what I do. Their website said I could do it. I'm not going to fight. I'm just going to say, no, there's nothing hazardous by your website in this bag because I have what it is limited to.
If you don't want me to bring it, say it on the website.
I didn't feel like carrying 5 amp hour DeWalt batteries through security and on the plane with me,
Yeah. Anyway.
We're getting way off.
So you discussed the tripods and then going through security. So that brings us back to weaponry choices for deer hunting. Okay. Long story short, we ended up shooting 8 deer in total. Remington shot 4. A friend of ours down in that area ended up making it out to hunt. Remington ended up going out with him for several days after the weather broke. The snow did eventually melt.
Did it? Okay.
About 2 days in. and the deer disappeared off the beach
Mhm.
in the numbers that we saw them in the first 2 days. Our deer sightings went down considerably.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
And so Remington ended up hunting a lot more up in the old growth, and he hiked way into a spot, kind of a new area for us, and he saw a ton of sign.
Mhm.
Very obvious that the deer had just recessed back into the timber, up into the old growth, and they were not on the beach. And all predominantly big buck tracks back in there. On a blacktail, you can tell what's a buck
Mhm.
if it's a big enough buck.
Okay.
If it's a smaller deer, if it's a 2-year-old buck, a big doe is going to have about the same size track, But when those big bucks get to be a big buck, you can tell, because no doe gets a foot that big. And he saw a ton of big buck tracks up in there. So that's where all the big bucks went.
Right.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to connect with any of them this year. They were all small spikes or does, which eat just fine.
It's a meat hunt.
They eat really good, actually.
We were just there to fill up the game bags.
Yeah.
And we did. So anyway, long story short, on the deer hunt, Remy shot 4, Mariah and I each shot 2. And we had a riot. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Nothing crazy with the shots. On a couple of them, Mo and I opted for some headshots because they were does and we didn't want to destroy any meat.
Yep.
Because again, that's why we're there.
Yeah.
And I'd never shot anything in the head before. It just hadn't
Big
really.
game anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, big game, grouse and rabbits, and
Right.
ptarmigan, sure. But for big game animals, I'd never shot anything in the head just because I'd never really had the thought.
Mhm.
But I thought, they're just does. It's not like you've got a rack to preserve. And why would I waste any chance of ruining any meat?
Yeah.
Because that rib meat can make jerky. And just why chance it? Or if it's a quartering away shot, you don't know where that bullet might end up going through, or just the general effect of that bullet going through a small animal like a deer.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
You can ruin a lot of meat just
yeah.
going through the good part of the vitals. That shock can just suck the lungs and the stomach right out the exit, as we saw on one of Mariah's deer. So anyway, Mo and I had a great time, and Remington as well. And we got into a few other species, which why don't you talk about that for a little bit? Some new species? Airborne species.
Airborne species.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked a little bit about you guys doing some more duck hunting.
Yeah.
So we did. We didn't do maybe nearly as much as we did last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were fewer species of ducks. I think it's because we were a little later in the year.
Yeah.
But we did get some golden eyes, which are some of the best eating ducks you'll find. And there's lots of meat on them.
I think I just ate my last one, actually.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Yeah.
We got some scoters, those surf scoters, which just they're an amazing duck. I mean, it's one of those things with creation that just is amazing, because you see, normal what you expect animals to look like, and then there's always something that just is one of those things that, like, well, I mean, the bill on the surf scoter looks like a work of modern art.
Yeah.
It's just kind of splotches of different
orange
color.
And the white and the yellow and the black accent.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like you gave a kid some crayons and said, color this duck's bill, although it's done, in a nice way. And it's really pretty. And I really want to shoot one day and mount it.
Yeah.
I have it mounted.
They are beautiful.
All black body and then the bill. And, and there's other ducks that we have in Alaska that have just the like the harlequins and the eiders and stuff like that.
I was just saying, did you guys see any eiders while you were down there?
No, I think the eiders leave pretty far before. Yeah. Now, November, there's going to be a lot more species.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I don't know about eiders. I don't know. There's long-tailed ducks down there.
Maybe we should make 2 trips. One trip in like September or October for ducks, and then go in November, December for big bucks.
You go for you got to go one for ducks meat and one for ducks and bucks.
Yes.
Ducks and bucks.
Yeah, there we go.
Like that.
Ducking and bucking.
So, and then you shot 2 bufflehead.
I did.
Which are a good eating duck. They're
small.
Tiny.
Yeah. They're kind of cool looking too.
They're hard targets, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
Hard targets.
They're small and fast.
I missed several last year.
They rip through the air. I mean, they
I was shooting a tungsten steel mix load that I brought that one goldeneye down at like 80 yards.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. It blew me away how that thing went down.
Yeah. You got a 28-inch barrel on that thing?
Yes.
3-inch?
Yeah, 3.5 is mine's 3.5. I was shooting 3-inch shells.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I've got a 30-inch barreled shotgun.
Show off.
Well, it was my grandpa's.
There you go. Yeah.
And it, my dad has it now. My grandpa passed on a while ago, and that gun hadn't been shot in, my dad thinks, 20 to 25 years.
Really?
I was the first one to shoot it.
No way.
20, 25 years ago.
Did you test fire it before you got down?
I did. I shot it at the range, and I was like, well, put that box out there, Mariah. Let's just make sure this thing goes off. And I kind of shot it and turned my head away. Like, please don't blow up. But it's got a 30-inch barrel. It's a full choke barrel, and it's a 3-inch chamber. And so I bought the Migra steel staggered shot. I bought BB / number 2 shot size steel shot, and so that's a big set of pellets in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I was using big pellets is I really wanted to shoot a goose, which didn't happen. It was a real bummer. I those geese, last year several times we would pull into a bay and look up in the head up into the grass flats, and the geese would just be all flocked up, relatively close to the tree line.
Yeah.
In a spot that we could get out, that we could have gotten out, walk through the trees, and then popped out and ambushed them and gotten a goose.
And that's what we had talked
just
about.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do this year. But every time we saw geese this year,
they were hundreds of yards from
they were 200 yards away from the tree line.
Yeah.
That they all of a sudden grew a brain this year. So I was very disappointed.
I think it's just when and where we saw them this year.
Well, I'm curious if that's a later season behavior, maybe.
It could be that there was a little bit more snow and ice up closer to the trees, and so they just stayed out farther. But I got a couple of bufflehead and then the scoter, and I think that was it for me.
And I shot, goldeneye and a scoter.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I shot more than one goldeneye. We didn't focus on it a whole lot.
No.
Remy and the guy he was hunting with shot a lot more.
Yeah, they did.
But I actually have a pretty much identical shotgun to the one you had there.
Yeah. It's an old 870 pump.
It's
beautiful.
exactly what I've got. I think the one I have might be a little, probably about the same age or newer. Yeah. I don't know. It's actually my father-in-law's, and I took it home to clean it up because he brought it out and it's covered in rust. That was before I got married. And I saw it in my safe, so it's in the corner of my safe, and I don't see it unless I take my other shotgun out. So I forgot about it.
Just nominated as a wedding present.
Is that the one you brought down this year?
No.
Oh, okay,
I took
gotcha.
I took my Mossberg, but my Mossberg is just set up for it. It's perfect. But
man, I'm honestly about to go down and get one of those.
That double bead on his shotgun is nice.
I've been looking at so many of these fancy shotguns, but then
28-inch full choke. It's perfect for that. Yeah. It's $400 or $500 shotgun. So getting in the saltwater and stuff is not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And that thing was smooth shooting last year.
That's something that I was going to bring up too. Is my grandpa's old 870 did not rust like I thought it was going to.
Mine, had a lot of rust on it. Even when I got back to Fairbanks.
And I took mine out of the gun sock when I got home to oil it up, which I did anyway. Right. And I oiled it up several times out there after having it out in the boat.
Yeah, I did with mine too.
And even out there after a day in the saltwater, it wasn't that bad. But I think it was what we were talking about before is the older, more high quality bluing finish to that shotgun. It just holds up a lot better.
The bluing on mine came off with the rust as I oiled it.
Oh, really?
Down.
Yeah. It just has kind of a shine to it now.
Yeah, you can see the more metallic color under the bluing. Yeah.
And that's the problem with the more modernized.
But I've got a guy that might be able to coat that for you.
Yeah.
For not much.
Well, and they even make do-it-yourself kits you can order.
Yeah, they do.
And some of them are really good.
Down at the Century Hardware there, it says
is there?
Black and there's a few other colors on it. It's got a black lid and comes in a can. You shake it up. And
I think that's called paint there, bud.
Krylon.
Krylon. That's what I was saying. Yeah, Krylon or Rust-Oleum.
Rust-Oleum.
Yes, sir. I have Rust-Oleum. I have Rust-Oleum more than one old gun that had rust on it back in my teen years.
Hey, if it works, it works.
And it worked fine. The animals don't complain.
Ain't stupid if it works.
The bullets come out just as fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't spray paint the inside of the barrel.
Well, that's how you refinish, redo the grooving in there.
Yeah.
Packs that back full.
Well, I think they call that re-rifling.
Sure. So I asked my father-in-law about that shotgun. I was like, hey, I got back from hunting and I put that there in there when I went to put my other shotgun back. I said, do you want that back? Or, And he goes, I'm not really going to use it. I haven't used that thing in ever.
Mhm.
I said, well, tell you what, I'll hang on to it until you need it. And he said, sounds good.
There you go. Nice.
So we're going crane hunting next year, and you're bringing that one.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I know. I might. It's a 28-inch barrel.
And this is the thing.
It might be a 30. I haven't looked. It might
This is the thing about what Mo and I were talking about down there duck hunting, and unsuccessfully banging our heads against the side of the boat when the geese would fly off as soon as we'd get within a quarter mile of them. It seemed like,
Yeah.
just trying to nose into a bay and just walk up to them, they would just
hurt.
take off. Anyway, so Mo and I were talking about this, like, this bird hunting thing is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd kind of like to do it up here.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of opportunities. As long
There
as
is.
I'm home for a little bit of time in September, I'd like to try.
So
it
my
up here.
original duck hunting that I did, I think I was like 14. My dad and I did some with a friend of his
Mhm.
locally. And I shot one duck. I only shot 3 times though
Mhm.
on that hunt. Well, we
Yeah.
did. We may have done it a couple of years. I don't remember, but I mean, I only shot a few ducks, and it was fun. I had fun, but I was very, very like hesitant on my shots. I didn't want to shoot unless I thought I could kill the duck,
Mhm.
which is how you should hunt. Although for ducks, it's a little different, right?
People tend to just pray and spray.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started blasting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
but
Bing, bang, boom.
What was funny? What was funny was on that. My dad had about as much experience with a shotgun, I think, as I had, at least for duck hunting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, we're set up in a blind and just waiting for ducks to fly in. And so ducks were coming in, and when they'd come in and we thought they were within range, he'd start blasting, and I wouldn't shoot unless I thought I had a shot. Like, so one morning, I remember I shot 2 or 3 times. I got one duck. He shot a box of shells or 2, had 5 ducks.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, Dad, I got a better shot for duck ratio than you did.
You got a higher batting average.
Yeah.
That was back in the day when you could shoot 2 boxes of shells and it'd be worth 5 ducks.
Yeah.
Like, these days, my
Now,
goodness.
these days, I
It's-
might still shoot.
It's still cheaper than 300 Win Mag, but
Yeah.
So, I mean, those tungsten steel micro loads were about $50 a box, I think,
Mhm.
40 something.
for a box
And-
20 or
50.
50.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
For a
Yeah.
box
It's about-
of
what?
50?
No. Man, you're throwing me off.
25.
25.
25.
25,
Okay.
yeah. Now,
I was.
a straight tungsten like TSS load from Federal
Mhm.
is $60 for 10.
Yeah, I was going to
60,
say.
65.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure it works really well. You
Right.
probably can shoot them at 120 yards.
You better be a good
but
shot.
my goodness, you better duck with every
Yeah.
shot. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And if I could take a duck with every shot, I would probably buy it.
Mm.
I wouldn't
I am
unless I
not
was
that-
hunting geese.
I would if,
Like geese or cranes.
because of its viability over range,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would if I was that good of a duck hunter,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
Yeah.
As I said, I start blasting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's ducks, they're within range. I'm going to line up and start
Yeah.
shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I and on that trip down there, I don't think I even fired a half box of shells. I
Right.
shot, I don't know, 10.
They
Yeah.
go a lot
And
faster than you realize when you start
yeah,
shooting.
I
but-
shot 10 and I killed 3, and that was plenty.
I know last year, there was the one day I had to borrow some shells from you because I had left mine back
Right,
at camp.
right.
But I think I left.
Our buddy
I
down
left
there was
some.
still shooting, and he shot a bunch of ducks with your shot. this
Yeah,
year.
I was going to say, I
Yeah.
left some down
He was
there.
we
clobbering
left him
them.
with some much
Mhm.
better shot because you brought that pheasant shot.
Yeah, I know. It was
Yeah.
all I could find, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But-
he had an over and under, which is
Okay.
honestly what I want.
Yeah. Mhm.
Just the nostalgia of it, having an over and under. I just really like
think
an
if
over
I-
and under.
Mhm.
It's just a classic
If
shotgun.
I had my druthers, I would.
Nice.
I'd go for like a Browning A5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, Browning A5 or one of the super nice Benellis or a Beretta.
I'm looking at those new Weatherbys. Or I guess they're not new, but they're new to me.
Are they the 18 eyes?
The 18 eyes,
Yeah.
yeah. They've got several different
Yeah.
styles and
And-
different
and
kinds.
those
some
are-
are
those
inertia
are-
driven, some
yeah,
are gas driven.
Those are
but
some, I mean, they're relatively affordable, you know, for what they are.
Yeah.
They seem like really good shotguns, but I don't know. A pump is probably level 2 for nostalgia for me. I just like a pump shotgun. They're
yeah.
just neat to shoot. they're fun to run, you know. But an over and under, to me, that's like the classic bird gun.
That's like for me, I really want a double rifle.
Oh yeah,
like
what I like
someday, man.
Get like a Krieghoff or a Rigby,
and it's kind of the same
something.
thing. It's just like
or a Holland and
throwback.
Holland.
Yeah,
what I really like about
$250,000
the A5
rifle.
is it's a nostalgia thing for me too, because when I was you were really into World War II as a teenager and growing up, right?
Yes,
You just loved
and
nerded
hockey.
out about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I was the same way. We both were into different things in history and stuff. But I remember I was learning about John Browning and looking at guns he crafted and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Browning A5 was originally designed and used during World War I. It was a trench sweeper.
Yeah, trench gun.
Yep.
Right. So that to me is like the nostalgia. It's the same action and gun. It's just in a more modern hunting package. So to me, like there's a lot of nostalgia. Yeah, sure, it's Cerakoted and it cost $2,000.
Yeah,
but
but I mean, you're probably paying $1,000 for it to be in Mossy Oak Bottomland.
If it makes you feel better, there's people that have paid
I'm
over
just kidding.
$2,000 for a Marlin 1895. One of the
You
new
know,
ones.
yeah, I paid $1,000.
One of the new ones, not one of the old ones.
I paid $1,000 for one of those with another gun,
Yeah.
both of which have been
Right.
very reliable, nice guns.
But it's not the new Ruger model.
no, it's not the
No.
Ruger model. It was a Remington model, but I've had zero issues with it.
Yeah.
Still worth
So-
what I paid for it.
Did you guys cook them up while you were out there? Did you bring
We
them back?
cooked a couple of them.
We
Yeah.
cooked up like, I don't know.
Did you
8 or
try any
9.
new recipes or just do them up the same old fashioned way?
Butter, salt, and pepper in the
There you
cast
go.
iron. That's it.
There you
The
go.
natural flavor,
Yeah.
and they are great.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Those were good. Well,
Yeah.
we did that one deer roast Remington did.
Yes.
That thing.
Mm.
There were 4 of us there, and we ate a meal probably for 8 people.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. We ate an entire. Now, it wasn't the entire rear quarter off of one of those deer, although we probably could have on some of the smaller ones.
Oh,
But,
definitely on some of the smaller ones.
I shot a doe early on. I think that was the first one that any of us shot.
That was the first one you shot, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was that little buck.
That's right. That one was a buck.
Yeah, it was a little spike. Or if
I
if
forgot
that,
about that.
nubbin buck.
Yeah.
Little
Anyway,
button.
so I shot that one, and we brought that one back into camp, and that night we got it all taken apart. We just hung it from a little meat pole,
Mhm.
and Remington and I ripped it apart and had it in game bags, and we said we need to make a roast out of this thing. Which for that we just sear it real fast in a super hot cast iron, and just with butter, salt, and pepper, and a backcountry rub. I think we put on it.
Okay.
That I had there. And after you sear it, good on all surface, wrap it up in tinfoil, put another half stick of butter in there with it, add more pepper, wrap it up tight, and then just let it just kind of bake over your fire.
Yeah.
And, if you've got like a little stove, that works well too. Kind of a propane
Careful if
stove
it
can work.
starts dripping grease.
Yeah, if it starts
Yeah.
dripping grease, that gets to be a
That
problem.
could be problematic.
It could be exciting.
Gets to be a real problem real fast. Anyway, so we did that, and then you just open up the tin foil and then just cut into the middle of it, and it cooks like a prime rib.
Yeah.
And then you add more pepper, and then you get to eating.
Naturally. Yeah.
I don't know. All of us out there just love pepper. So
Uh-huh.
anyway, yeah, we did that. I think we just cut out like the back ham roast.
Okay. Yeah.
We didn't take the whole. All the meat would have been way too much. But yeah, that's the ultimate nostalgic deer camp meal out there for us, is we just love cooking up a whole roast like that.
Honestly, fresh kill camp meat is
Yeah.
it's the best part of hunting for me.
It was
so
less
nice.
than 6 hours from kill to in your belly.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah,
great.
best moose meat I ever had was like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Always
Yeah.
is.
So after we were done shooting airborne adversaries, we resorted to catching.
Well, I mean, you could say after
some-
we
so-
attempted to do this throughout the trip.
Yes, that's right.
So from ducks and bucks
From up in the air and on the beach to below the surface of the water.
to hooks and hooves.
But more on that after this break.
That's a
Nice.
good point. It's been a while.
Nice. Good cliffhanger there.
Hammer Bullets produces what we at the Northern Hunter consider to be the most premium and best working monolithic bullets on the market today. These bullets are easy to load, extremely accurate, and best of all, they're always in stock and ready to ship. The guys at Hammer designed them so that after penetrating the hide of an animal, it sheds its petals, initiating a massive energy dump while retaining the rear shank for maximum penetration. These bullets are built with 100% focus on how they perform on game, and their proprietary designs produce great BCs with specialized pressure grooves for amazing inherent accuracy and speed. They have a minimum expansion velocity of 1,800 feet per second, which allows for long-range shots, but with no maximum velocity, making them perfect for every cartridge from your granddaddy's old 30-30 to the high-velocity round like the Weatherby 30-378 without having to worry about your bullet failing. To view their expansive selection and find the perfect match for your hunting needs, go to hammerbullets.com and use discount code TheNorthernHunter to drop the hammer on your next adventure.
So this year, we brought fishing gear.
Fishing gear.
Well, you did, and Remy did.
Yes.
I had the intention, but I lost track of time, and all of a sudden we were leaving, and I didn't have a fishing pole.
Yeah. What is that? Something about good ideas without follow through remain as good intentions.
Good intentions without. I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, something to that effect. But anyway, on the preparation side, my dad loaned me that shotgun to use, and he said, this was my dad's, and so I figured I'd borrow that. And he said, well, I've got a fishing rod too. If you're going to be doing some fishing this year, I was just going to buy one and just bring it down there and buy a bait caster and all that for jigging off the bottom. And my dad said, well, I've got a bunch of rods in the crawl space that we used growing up in Fiji. We had some.
Yeah.
But we didn't saltwater fish a lot, but some, here and there. And so my dad had some gear and tackle. And we didn't ever do much jigging down there as kids. It was mostly just topwater, just spinners and poppers and
Gotcha.
a lot of very aggressive predatory fish that you go in the mangroves and topwater fish. And
it's so awesome
those
watching them hit
snappers,
topwater.
those snappers and barracuda would hit them. And that was a lot of fun.
That's what I love about topwater pike fishing.
That's a riot.
When they hit,
it's a riot.
Running a little frog through the
wings.
Dude. Frogs or mice.
Then all of a sudden the water just explodes.
Yeah. It's like a wolf without legs.
It really is.
Yeah. They're nasty. So anyway, I ended up borrowing a rod from my dad too. And I ended up putting new line on there because the old braid on there, and it had been on there for a long time and hadn't been used. And there was a little bit of rot that was showing on it. So I bought new line, 80 or 85 pound test because you're going down there a long ways and you don't want any line that has any question to it.
There's a chance the line's going to bump rocks.
Yeah.
And
sure.
If you hook into that halibut,
yeah,
you don't want to lose it, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, monster halibut, which is not real predominant in the area that we were fishing. and we didn't have a fish finder. So Mariah, what did we do about that?
Well, we talked to a guy, one of the locals in the store, and said, hey, where's any tips for finding fish? And he said, well, I've got this app that I use, and it's got some sonar at the bottom. So I looked at the app and said, oh, yeah, I was actually experimenting with that app before we left, thinking about fishing.
Yeah.
And, exploring the water and being able to know what was under us. So we talked to him. We talked to some other people about some advice on where to look and what to fish for and, where to fish, what kind of stuff to look for underneath the water. And
so was this just like an underwater topo map kind of thing?
Basically,
kind of.
So I found an app. It's called Navionics by Garmin, which is probably what makes it so good. Garmin seems to have a reputation for reliable products that work. They just work, right? And their apps are pretty much the same way. For the most part, I've had issue with one thing. I won't go into that now, and so I downloaded it. I downloaded the maps. It's like $50 a year, right? Which is, what you pay for land maps, right?
Right.
So
it's true. It's true.
Now I think it was like $50 depending per region. So like the North America region,
right?
Or maybe it was Alaska because Alaska's a big place and there's a lot of water. But
is this salt only or freshwater?
So
too?
I think it does some freshwater.
Okay,
but I didn't see information for like the Yukon.
Yeah,
or
it'd be hard to map a lot of Alaska's interior lakes and whatnot, but maybe some of the bigger ones.
So I didn't see, there might be some interior lakes and stuff in Alaska that and some rivers maybe on the coast and stuff, areas that go in a little ways. But I'm sure in the States there's way more of the information on the app and available. But so it basically gave like a bottom topo, and you could tap anywhere and it would tell you the depth,
really?
Approximate depth,
right?
But it also had a kind of a heat map for depth that allowed you to see, so if you ran both of them at the same time, you could see shadows under the water. So you can't see the rock formation, but you can see, okay, the topo shows a little bit of a hump here, but you can see a shadow. So
Right.
you know there's some rocks there.
Yeah. There's some structure
Right.
down there.
Nice.
Which is where those
Okay.
rockfish like to live.
Exactly. They look for that. They live in that structure.
Mhm.
So it gave depth. It gave the structure. You also can use it when you're riding along a slow pace, and all of a sudden the boat stops on top of a rock.
Which
Doesn't happen.
Yeah,
it never happens.
It's never happened to us, but it does happen to other people.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that
you can
hit stuff down
Look
there.
at the app and say, oh yeah, there is a rock there. The app
Yeah.
agrees with that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but so it's a great option for that. You can use it to look at like tides. Also,
Okay.
it has all the tide information and stuff built in. So depending on
Nice.
what you're doing, there's markers. People actually can use the app and leave markers for other people to see. You can
Mhm.
do the same if you want, but you can also mark your fishing spots and all that kind of stuff. So I was using that. I mean, day one, I don't know if we brought any fishing poles, but day two, for sure
Yeah.
we had them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we were trying to catch some fish. Tried this spot, tried that spot. I mean, we brought up like
Got a couple of flounders, but
caught some caught a flounder. You and Remy caught a flounder.
yeah.
Both,
Same hook, bit both.
both same.
Yeah, I'm
Wait.
sorry. Same fish bit both lures, and we both reeled it up at the same time.
What?
Yeah.
I have it on video. I'll have to get that
Really?
out. But
Yeah.
Wildest
thing ever.
Yeah.
Huh.
We'll have to put that on the Instagram or something. at
Yeah,
some
for
point.
sure.
From that point on, we fished on different sides of the boat.
Well, that would have sucked.
Or use different bait.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
What were you guys using for bait?
Just little darts,
well, little
like-
or big or
like
however you wanna look at it,
9-inch
but
darts.
Yeah.
Yep. Straight to the bottom, single hook.
just jigging, just
Yep.
drop it and pull it up.
Come up off a little bit off the bottom and then just jig it.
But anyhow, so we tried several. We caught flounder. I mean, we caught a little Pacific cod,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and we caught one little tiny. Didn't we catch a little tiny,
Did we catch a little quillback?
a little quillback early on?
Maybe.
Pretty small, like
Yeah.
a 5-6 incher.
I think we
something
threw
like
that one back.
Yeah, I caught it.
Did you?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
We tried one spot and we caught, and that was more than we caught. I'm like, well, that's better than we had been doing.
Yeah.
And
But it definitely wasn't a keeper.
It-
you know?
no,
Right, yeah.
Definitely hadn't found where they were yet.
and it was in pretty
Mhm.
shallow water, so we
Yeah.
let it go. And
I think it was like 40 or 50
That was
feet.
40 or
It
50 feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was pretty
And
shallow.
that's one thing, like rockfish to me are like, they're not the wildest looking fish in the ocean by any means.
Yeah, they're
But
weird,
of the
though.
ones you can catch and eat,
Yeah.
they're weird looking
Yeah.
fish.
oh yeah, well,
goofy
and there's a lot of
looking fish.
variety in there.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
But so and then one day we're sitting, it's glassy water.
Mhm.
We're glassing, and I said, why don't we try fishing? And he said, why? That's not a bad idea.
Why? Don't mind if I do.
Yeah. So
Drop that line in there,
so-
son.
just for the story's sake of it, we were just sitting in a spot. I didn't look at my sonar, nothing. I just grabbed the rod, dropped the line, started jigging. What did I catch? Lingcod.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which we're out of season.
Oh,
So-
Yeah.
We returned it to its depths. And
sad.
and then
Which,
said,
on that note, you are required to have
Yes.
a deep water release
Mhm.
on your vessel when you're fishing. So that
Explain that.
that is basically a little spike that you run through their bottom lip that has a weight below it, so that you drop it back in the water,
Yeah.
free spool your line, let it sink down to the bottom, or at least 100 feet if you're in that depth. And then you jig that back up, and that little spike just comes right back up out of their bottom lip. It's just like a little needle that
Yeah.
sticks in there,
Okay.
and it just drags them back down to the bottom. You have to do that because their swim bladder inflates too fast for them to regulate
because
it.
of the pressure and
Right,
everything.
right. Okay.
Because of the pressure difference in the water column.
Pressure
So-
and temperature and all that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you got to drop them back down so they don't die. If you
Mhm.
if you just throw them back in the water, then they just go belly up and they'll eventually just die.
Is that something that's pretty readily available for people
Oh,
to
yeah.
go down there
Yeah, you
to
can just
fish?
buy them at the local fishing
Okay.
store,
Yep. Yeah.
which is where we were. And that actually prompted, like Mariah getting that little app there. I wanted that because I had heard of somebody. Mariah was alluding to that story about somebody running onto a rock out there.
Mhm.
In the area that we were going this year, there were a lot of rock formations in the water, and we're running a 16-foot Lund.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a boat that you want to run anything into.
No.
That's a
Mhm.
heavy boat. Not that you want to run into it with any other boat either,
Yeah.
but it's a lot higher consequences when you hit a metal boat like that.
Yeah.
An inflatable too, but especially
bounce
with
a little
like
better.
going ashore, you don't want to let that Lund go dry.
Right. Right.
Because it's really hard on them over time. You get those rocks and the barnacles and that scraping on that metal. And
Right.
there are guys that have run into problems with that.
Mhm.
And as the tide goes out, if there's any chop in the water at all,
Yeah.
as you lose water when you're up in the woods hunting, that boat can just be bouncing and smacking on a rock.
Well, and I was going to say, so like that area last year that Moe and I
Yes.
shot deer in.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
when we were getting
spot.
through some of those areas back
Yes,
there.
that is.
I mean, there were spots like we were using oars to like push the rocks or push away, put the boat away from the rocks, and we only had a 4-foot wide channel to get through.
Yeah,
you know,
basically the motor is out of the water and you're
Right.
just pushing yourself
Right.
through, just like a raft.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the deep water release is a requirement. And so any of those fish that we either didn't want to keep because they were too small, because there are pretty stringent limits down there. It's not like you can keep very many of anything down there.
Yeah.
Some
But
you can, but we didn't catch them.
yeah, we didn't catch any of the ones that we could keep very many of.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But so for size, we only wanted to keep the bigger ones to eat them.
Sure.
And then some of the ones that we caught, we couldn't eat. Like the lingcod, so we have to deep water release some of those. So anyway, that's what you have to have is a deep water release.
Right. But yeah,
Which is sad because lingcod's so
after
good.
after a few
lingcod
days
is
of
good.
not very successful fishing, some success, but not having a whole lot of fun at it.
Yeah.
I said, let's try something deep.
Yeah.
And we found like some structure 80, 90 feet.
Yeah. At that point, you and I had shot most of the deer that we shot.
Yeah, I think I had one more deer to shoot that I shot later that day.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Or the next morning.
Yeah. The hunting had been slow. Most of the snow had melted off the beaches. We weren't seeing anything that day. That was the last day of the hunt.
It was.
And Mariah said, well, let's try something deeper. And so he got on his maps and we motored over to an area, well away from shore. We weren't even looking for deer anymore. And when the rock fishing is good, because I've fished rockfish before in other parts of the state. And I mean, when you're in them, you're in them.
Oh, yeah.
You drop down and within a jig or two, if you don't have a bite, then you're probably not in the exact right spot.
Yeah.
Because they hit quick.
I've been on charters where it's like every time you drop it down,
Yeah.
you're reeling one back up.
Yeah, within seconds.
Yeah.
they're on them.
And so we try the spot and I drop a line and no sooner do I tap the bottom and I'm on the way up and I've got a fish on.
Yeah,
Nice.
immediately.
Yeah.
That's how it goes when you're in them.
And
Yeah.
I reel it in and like, oh, check this out. And, throw them back or water release them or whatever, depending on the size or keep it, whatever. And we kept a few fish from that spot and then we motored over and got Remington and fished into the dark in another spot that was they weren't hitting quite as fast, but they were a lot bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot bigger
It was
fish.
deeper,
That was like 150 feet.
120 to 150.
Yeah.
The structure was high there, but
And it was getting just about dark, and we had to get back into camp quick. But just that last little bit of light, where it's it's marginal shooting light,
Right.
but it's still enough light to operate safely
Right.
on the water.
And we were close
And-
to camp.
Yeah, and we ended up just getting right into them, and
Nice.
we ended up catching our limit on rockfish on ones that we wanted to keep, and we caught a few rock bass too.
The black rockfish
Yeah.
specifically. And you can actually keep quite a few of those, but we didn't catch very many.
I think we only caught like 3 total.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't very many, but
Those
Total,
are probably.
some of the better tasting ones.
I would say those are probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
the
are
black
tasty.
we were
bass.
catching
Yeah.
the copper.
and then
non-pelagics.
copper
Mhm.
rockfish.
And we caught another non-pelagic.
I didn't.
You didn't. I did.
Remington and I got tired of reeling up fish and said, all right, well, one of us needs to give a rod to Mariah. And so Remington sacrificed his rod and reel because he was limited out and said, all right, well, I caught what I want to catch. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mariah.
Mhm.
Drops down like within 2 jigs. The whole rod just bends over down to the handle.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, that's
So I
that's
started.
a little bigger fish.
It wasn't exactly the right rod for the kind of fishing we were doing.
Yeah.
That ugly stick was hewed over touching the water, right?
Nice.
And I'm just pulling and reeling on the down and pulling up and reeling and
Yeah.
next thing I know, a great big yellowish orange fish. Yeah, I mean big fish.
Yeah.
Big fish. I mean, what would you say? I mean, we estimated that weight at over 20 pounds.
It was easy 25.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Giant yellow eye.
upper 20 inches.
Man.
Oh yeah,
That's a big
it
one.
was easy 25 to 26 inches. It was a
Yeah.
huge
It was
fish.
a big fish. Now,
Huge fish.
Can't keep
Man.
those
No.
at all.
Yeah.
So deep water release.
Very carefully, get the hook out of the mouth in the
Mhm.
water, not
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get it out of the water at all. And then switch over to my rod because I while he was bringing it in and trying to get the hook out, bending over the side of the boat, I rigged up my deep water release
Right.
on my rod, and then I said, all right, switch it over to mine, put the weight on it. And the one weight was not enough.
We ended up adding. So, I mean,
We ended up adding 2
pounds,
more weights.
No
almost 2
kidding.
Yeah,
pounds of
it was a
weights.
couple of pounds of lead weights to drop
because
that
it's
fish
such a
back
big
down.
fish. Yeah.
Wow.
That bladder was so buoyant.
Yeah.
Finally, we added the last weight to it, and it sunk it down there, and it went all the way down.
We were able to do that quickly. Those weights
Mm.
were, you can throw them on pretty quick with a couple of slip
Yeah.
knots and stuff. But
Gotcha.
So I got that fish all the way back down to the bottom, and then I had to reel the weights all the way back up, which was worse than fighting the rockfish.
Right.
yeah, at least the rockfish, you got to, what's going to come out of the water. right?
Yeah.
This one I'm just like, it's just lead.
Any
But-
day now.
We should have a clip we can show of that fish coming up, of that
Nice.
rockfish,
Yeah,
there you go.
of the yellow eye.
Huge.
Perfect. Yeah.
Huge
I
yellow
had
eye.
it on camera with the GoPro. So
Sweet.
And obviously, folks know that fish has grown since we caught it, and it's going to grow again by the next time we tell the story. So
Oh yeah, well, and next time we're down there, maybe catch it again, right?
catch the world record.
Oh,
Yeah. There you go.
You know, I think the most interesting part about fishing down there, and well, really in any saltwater in Alaska where you're catching those kind of fish, those rockfish,
Mhm.
you know, and the yellow eyes as well. Those are old fish.
Yeah.
They
I'll look that up real quick.
a yellow eye of that size and weight is not a 5-6-year-old fish.
Right.
It's not a 10-year-old fish. Those fish get to be extremely old, and I was shocked the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
That just blew me away. How long those things
So
live.
this says
down
they
there.
can be 100 and extremely old would be 140 years.
Really?
Wow.
Yellow
Dude,
eye.
that's
yeah.
mind blowing.
So I mean,
and I mean, we talked with
but
Maxwell
even,
about that a little bit. You and I did.
Yeah.
And then it just
Just
blows my mind.
even if the average big rockfish only lives to be 100, still that's
Yeah.
100 years that
Yeah.
fish has been alive.
Right.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah, fish are crazy little critters, man. I mean, it's, I haven't dedicated as much time as I would probably like to fishing. I'm looking at changing that this year, but I mean, they're just fascinating.
Oh man, some of
I
the fishing we got around here is kind of boring after that.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
After
No,
jigging up rockfish,
I plan on driving quite a ways to do my fishing.
I was a little hesitant to drop that $50
Mhm.
on that. And I was just like, the budget's tight for the hunt anyway, but
Yeah.
I just decided to at the last minute and did
Right.
it, and I'm so glad I did.
I think that app made all the difference.
And-
it definitely did. If we didn't
Yeah.
have it, what would we have done? We would have.
yeah,
We probably would have caught a few fish. But
yeah.
just tried around the rock formations, but
Well,
we
and
don't
that's
know where they're
kinda-
at either.
right.
And that's kind of what I think happened with me in fishing was when I first moved up here, I fished a lot.
Mhm.
I've probably
Mhm.
been to every pond around Fairbanks,
Mhm.
within several
Well,
miles.
that's your problem.
But that's just it. Is I was catching the same fish of the same size, and every once in a while I get a big one,
Sure.
big pike or a big trout,
Yeah.
that you can be proud of. But for the most part, you're not catching anything
Yeah.
awesome. And there's a lot of murky water around here,
Mhm.
some clear water, but a lot of murky lakes and whatnot. And
Yeah.
it's just I'm not the kind of guy that enjoys fishing for the sake of fishing.
Mhm.
I'm not the guy that enjoys just casting and reeling into dark
Yeah.
water that I can't see, that I don't know what's going. I might catch a little thing.
That's
It's a fun thing to
Yeah.
do on an afternoon when you've got nothing else to do and
Yeah.
you just want to sit in a lawn chair on the edge of
Mhm.
the water. But
that's what's interesting to me because I enjoy hunting just to hunt.
yeah, same.
If I go on a hunt and don't shoot anything, sure, I'm a little bit disappointed.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I'm still out there. I'm having a good old time.
Yeah.
If I go fishing and I don't catch anything, man, it's a while before I go again.
Right.
I do not enjoy that. I like catching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't
Well,
transfer
for
from
me-
hunting to fishing, at least for me anyway.
For me, I think what the difference is and what's kind of caught my attention, you could say,
Oh, I see what you did there.
is I didn't even catch that when I
Yeah.
said it, but
Caught your attention
Yeah.
into fishing, did you?
is the same thing I love about even an unsuccessful hunt is you still get out there, you still get to see this wilderness and experience it and be somewhere new or be somewhere wild and just enjoy being out there, right? You get the peace and quiet, you get the experience. There is a lot of fishing available in Alaska that's not pond hopping around Fairbanks.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to some of these wilder river areas and catch monstrous pike down there around the ocean and catch big old rockfish,
Mm-hmm.
halibut, deep sea fishing, ling cod, things like that. salmon running in the rivers.
Right.
And there's so many different ways you can catch salmon even,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
so for me, like getting into that aspect of fishing where I'm
Yeah.
actually getting out further and doing more, that's
Yeah.
where I'm getting interested in it again.
Like adventure
But-
fishing.
Sure. Yeah. Destination fishing. you
Right.
could
Right.
say.
Yeah.
But-
There you go. There you go.
yeah. But just not, I don't know, like just going out into the flats or something like that. I mean, I'll
Right.
still do it. Don't get me
Sure,
wrong. It's
sure.
better than sitting on the couch, but like,
Yeah.
it's just not what,
Yeah. It's
not what gets my gears
Yeah.
turning.
It's not what gets me outside in the summertime.
Right.
Not
Yeah,
by
I
a
feel
long
the same
shot.
way. When I was growing up, fishing the local gravel pits with
Yeah.
for pike,
Yeah.
Mhm.
northern pike, and the biggest you're going to catch in those is usually maybe a 20-incher, 25-incher max.
Mhm.
But that's big enough to eat, and those things
Yeah.
taste amazing.
I like pike.
It's like
yeah.
I think pike are aside from like burbot, they're Alaska halibut, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interior halibut,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Freshwater.
I mean, but burbot, sheefish, those are both, I
Mhm.
think, better than pike.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Shefish is great.
Shefish
a big
is really
great.
great.
Northern pike?
Yeah.
What, really?
You ever
I've-
eaten shefish?
No.
Yeah, you need to.
I've never
Well,
had I'll say
it's
this.
good.
I've never had, of the larger pike I've caught, I've never had a bad one.
Yeah.
A bad
no, they're
tasting
good.
one. I've had really bad tasting smaller
They're
ones.
bony. But,
And I've had really bad tasting ones out of Chino Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
I
could see
but,
Yeah.
Don't eat the fish out of Chino Lakes. But yeah, of the bigger ones, yeah, they've always tasted good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, I looked up record yellow eye
Mm-hmm.
when we're talking about this here. I'd looked it up before, but this doesn't say, it looks like a yellow eye. Although it was very much swim bladder was like out of its
Oh, yeah.
6 inches sticking out of the front of its mouth.
Mm-hmm.
This is he's a fishing guide, saltwater fishing guide, but he went out there to fish for himself
Mm-hmm.
one day, and he reeled in the largest rockfish the state has ever seen
Mm.
this year, August.
Oh, really?
1,000 feet deep. He was fishing down there.
Wow.
42.4 pounds. 3 days after it had been caught, he bled it when he caught it. So it was probably closer to
Wow.
45, 50.
Yeah.
42 inches in length.
Holy smokes.
For a yellow eye?
It looks like a yellow eye.
Let me see.
Well, let's find his video here. The eyes are
man.
bulged out. That's yeah.
Son.
That's a yellow eye for sure.
Anyhow.
Wow.
This breaks the
Good
previous
grief.
state record. By the previous state record was like 39 pounds.
Man.
Wow.
That thing's a
Um,
monster.
It doesn't say yellow eye in the whole article. It just says Rockfish,
I think
but-
it's a
Yeah.
yellow eye,
yeah. Anyhow, but he bled it and put it on ice, and it was weighed 3 days later.
Wow.
But yeah, no, that is
I mean,
Good.
'cause it's
night.
just a yellow eye rockfish. That's all it is.
yeah.
I would say for that sake, they might not differentiate
Yeah.
between.
Yeah, I mean, because
You know,
it's a
for-
non-pelagic, although they don't even differentiate that. I would think they would, but it is
Hmm.
just an article in Alaska News Source. So,
Yeah.
Wow. Who caught that?
this is
Might have to book a
what
trip
course
with
is
that there.
I
guy.
know, right?
right. Yeah, well,
He knows where they're at.
he upped his prices after that one, right?
right.
Oh, yeah.
DeGraff, that's his last name is DeGraff.
Huh.
Keith DeGraff.
Wow.
Out of
Right on.
Prince William Sound.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man.
I'm sure he wasn't hand reeling that 1,000-footer. Had probably
he
had
said
the
he thought he
electric
had a
reel.
halibut.
Probably had the electric reel.
You'd be surprised. Some of these guys got some
It says
lopsided arms.
3
It's-
hours, so
3
What?
hours?
of reeling. Yeah,
Really? I mean, 1,000
or
feet.
no,
that's-
maybe he's fishing for 3. Yeah, a little
gonna say,
confusing in how
3
this is
hours.
written. Definitely confusing in how this is written, but no, yeah, it doesn't say.
I would say 1,000 feet's a long way, but that's, I don't know
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he's playing it right,
Right.
Good grief.
I'm at 50 fish.
Yeah, it doesn't really say like cat, but he said he thought he was reeling in a halibut, which
Yeah, I would too, probably.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, good for him. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll someday we'll get something to get in that ballpark. That'd be a riot, wouldn't it?
Oh, wouldn't it be fun to
dude.
get out there and fish 1,000 feet, huh?
Right.
Yeah, I want an electric reel before I do that. I don't got that kind of time, my friend.
So you guys got caught enough. You got to keep some and eat
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
and all
Yep.
that. Yeah,
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
We ate some there.
And any
Yep.
any camp recipes for rockfish?
Salt, pepper, and butter, baby. You
Salt,
know what I'm
pepper,
going to
butter,
say.
And we breaded them.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
Yep,
go. Nice.
We did.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, and those coppers were good. They didn't have like a lot of flavor like some of the white meat fish will, but
right, yeah.
But it's still really good.
The thing I've noticed with rockfish and halibut and all of those is it's not necessarily the inherent flavor that they have, but they season really well.
Yes.
They just soak it all up.
I mean, halibut does have a halibut flavor.
It does, and I like it.
Those
a
rockfish
lot,
have such a moist, white, flaky meat to them.
That's the good stuff, man.
I think I don't think there's a better fish for rockfish tacos anywhere. I think rockfish tacos are the cat's meow. Awesome.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meat on them too.
Oh yeah,
there is.
It's not like, I mean, if you catch
heavy fillets.
Well, right, because of the way they're built though, there's so much more meat on them than like a fresh, at least any freshwater fish I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
With the girth, like you might catch a 16-inch fish, but there's 5 times the amount of meat on that 16-inch fish there would be on a 16-inch of any freshwater fish that I've ever caught.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now those rockfish have a lot of girthy meat fillets to them. Yeah. Very meaty fish.
And there's really, I mean, that's one thing I love about the deep sea fishing here in Alaska is just there's so many different options. I mean, if you do get down there during lean cod season and you catch one that's, within the size limitations and all that, I mean, that's great eating.
Which I believe lean cod ends November 30th.
Oh, does it?
I believe so.
Yeah. I think it doesn't. Doesn't it open 4th of July or like 1st of July?
It's different everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's true.
There's different fishing units too.
But like, you got the rockfish, you got halibut. I even keep all the cod that I catch. That's regular old cod is good eating.
Pacific cod?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we didn't eat that one. We were told it was like a trash fish.
Oh,
at least
really?
The locals think that about it.
I mean, compared to other things, it's not halibut.
I was like, well, I've had cod that was good.
Yeah.
So
I'll as long as they're big enough, I mean, you don't want to keep one that's super tiny, but if they're big enough to have good fillets, I think I'll eat them all day long.
Couple of Pacific cod that we caught, what we ended up letting go because they were
pretty
only
small,
like 16 inches.
Or they weren't even that big. No, they're like a foot.
Okay,
yeah, that's not worth it.
And they're not very girthy
because you don't get as much meat off of those.
Right. No, like a copper, a foot long copper, you could easily get enough meat to eat.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah, that's at least dinner for 2. Yeah. So if not more.
No, I really enjoyed doing the fishing down there. It's something that I've wanted to do since I started going down to that part of the state, and it makes it fun for the deer hunting because we travel to so many different areas throughout the times and hunt different spots from year to year and go camp different places and do different things. That's a lot of fun, but the fishing is going to be pretty much good wherever you're going to go.
Right. Yeah.
I've hunted in different places for deer and had varying successes, from spot to spot, year to year.
And sometimes it flip-flops.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fishing, pretty much as long as you're in the right depth with the right structure down there and you got the right lure that they want, I mean, you're not going to have a bad day.
Well, and the thing I like so much, and what makes me so upset I missed this trip was, it's like there's just that variety.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not seeing deer, but you're seeing ducks, you go after the ducks.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing deer or ducks, or the ducks are, geese are flying away from you a quarter mile away.
Yeah.
You drop a line. And it's just, it sounds like it was a really fun, just kind of all inclusive, just
cast and blast.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That's, yeah, I will be on next year's trip. That's for sure.
Head down for the annual cast and blast.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Dalton Deer Camp and friends.
There you go. There you go. So, what were some things you'd say you took away from this one? Every hunt has some lessons. And what's like some gear, maybe some new pieces of gear you guys tried?
Go ahead, Mariah.
All right. So gear I tried, I talked about the Primo stick. The other biggest thing I used and tried was the Omen Storm Shelter pants from First Light that go with the coat.
Okay, so you got the full kit now?
Got the full kit. Phenomenal. I mean, really? I've never ever felt so comfortable hunting in rain gear. I didn't feel like I had rain gear on, but I was dry.
Nice.
Right?
There you go.
Even on the real wet, rainy days. They work really well if you do not wear hip waders over them and stand up and pour water down your hip waders.
Guilty.
When it's a real rainy day. But I had my knee boots on that day with the pants over the boots, so it was good. Had dry feet, warm feet.
Yeah. which was not a thing last year.
Well, and so the other big thing I brought this year, I had 2 setups. I had the knee boots and pants, rain pants, and then I had chest waders. And they weren't anything insane for chest waders. I think normal price is like $420 was lacrosse chest waders. 100 grams, 130 grams of Primaloft or something, some kind of insulation like that in the main body of the chest wader.
Oh, nice.
They're a nylon, breathable nylon, waterproof with a lacrosse boot, 1,000-gram insulation in the boot, which was just right.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to wear them doing more than walking across the beach, right, and into getting in and out of the boat and stuff like that.
But they're
hiking up in the
waders,
woods.
that's what they're for. Yeah.
They're too noisy and all that kind of stuff. But for just wearing them, especially staying in the boat, warm, dry, couldn't complain. Like it was just nice.
Those looked comfortable.
Yeah.
So those are the big things for me. There's definitely something I think I need to change gear wise, but we'll do that later.
So hit on your cowboy gun there.
On the Marlin?
Yeah. Because that was something that you didn't hunt with at all last year.
So I brought it last year.
Right.
But I didn't attempt to kill anything with it.
You didn't hunt with it.
I didn't hunt with it.
So this year after hunting with it, would you do it again, and what would you change if you do?
I'm really, really divided on doing it again. I want to. I'm just wondering if I shouldn't take it on an easier hunt.
Black bear.
I was going to say, it'd be a good bait gun.
I want to do a bait gun. The problem is I have my 4570.
Bring them both.
Right. Well, and every baiting season I get a plan. All right, I'm going to kill a bear with this gun and a bear with this gun and a bear with this gun, and then I'll kill one with my bow, right? And seasons don't ever turn out that way for me. Sometimes you don't kill anything with any gun. So I kind of had that plan this last spring, and nothing died except for my
time and energy.
And self. What's that word?
Self-confidence?
Yeah, that one. Anyhow.
Hey, it's a new year, Mariah. Make a new resolution.
I don't know if I'll bring it again. It's a, I feel confident. Like I said, I feel confident with 200 yards. I want to shoot more, stretch out my range more. I'm really tempted to change the front sight to fiber optic.
Okay.
Because that'll helpfully be a lot more visible.
Could you get like some fiber optic paint to just dab on that
you
front sight?
You can do that, but the fiber optic that collects the light is a lot better.
Yeah.
It's like a fiber optic bow sight at that point, right? It actually, even in dim light, it will collect enough light you can see it.
The paint works, but it's not.
And it doesn't.
It's
work.
not anything like an actual fiber optic.
It's better than
sight.
the black.
Does the fiber optic front sight kind of bleed a little bit?
What do you mean?
Like at longer distances, does it get kind of blurry?
No more blurry than that black post that's on that gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just curious.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think it would be a little more sharp because it's it's going to be reflecting light, right? Collecting light.
Yeah.
Because,
that would be helpful even at the bait, honestly.
It would be.
Yeah.
But at the bait, even if it's overcast and kind of dark at 3 a.m., I'm going to be max at 30 yards.
Exactly.
So maybe I set up a bait for guns and it's 50 yards. I ain't going to have an issue with that.
Right.
Yeah. Or to use proper English, I will be able to hit the target. But, and I've got my 4570. I want to use it to bait too. So I don't know. I really want to hunt with that 30-30. I want to make it something I hunt with for the nostalgia, all that too. I don't want to put a scope or anything on it. If I put a red dot on that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Like if I put an aim point on that, even just like a 4X or something like that.
Right.
Oh my goodness! There wouldn't be anything safe in the woods for 200 yards or closer. But that's not what I want to do with that gun.
Right.
And maybe I would eventually, but I'd like to hunt with it traditionally. So I'm split on bringing that next year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a hard thing to do to have a gun you don't want to mess up due to what do you call that?
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Nostalgia or sentimental.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I mean, it wouldn't be messing it up. It has the spots to mount it.
But just leaving it the way it was.
I just like to leave it the way it was. Right. So I can see putting the fiber optic on there. That's an easy thing to do. And it's not really, and it's kind of a necessary thing, I think, to be ethical. Right. One thing I really like about it is there is so much more of a challenge to shoot that.
Absolutely.
Than to shoot a scoped rifle.
Yeah.
I can set up with the scoped rifle, like with my 300 Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, bang that 8-inch steel plate at 300 yards like
It's nothing.
it's nothing, right? Make
Yeah.
sure I'm holding my breath, everything's lined up like it should be. Don't hold your breath too long. And yeah, you're going to hit it pretty much in the middle every time.
Right.
That 30-30, I mean, you've got to concentrate. Everything's got to be lined up just right. You got to be trying to put all that sight picture together the same way every time.
Right.
I compare it to like shooting a compound with, with a, what's that, True Glow, with a True Glow, and if that's the name of it, that's the name of one of them, with a True Glow and a peep sight versus, that's like shooting your scoped rifle versus, say a recurve
with nothing.
Yeah. Right? It's this. You have a point of reference on it,
but you've got to train with it.
All of a sudden,
all
of a sudden, when you look down the sights, that box is it's a black.
Yeah,
and if it's bright enough, you can kind of see the orange in the middle.
Well, and I wish that they would make them. And I mean, obviously, yours is older, but like even me, I bought that new Henry this last year, 4570 all weather. And great gun. Absolutely great gun. But it came with ghost rings on it. And I was thinking, I'll give these ghost rings a try. I've used them before. They're one of my...
What was your 100-yard group with that? Could you hit the box every time?
Oh, yeah. I was hitting it every time. I'm trying to remember what my tightest one was. It wasn't tight.
I tried to shoot a paper plate one time with my ghost ring at 100 yards on my my Marlin. Now, I don't know how big your ghost ring was versus mine. Mine was huge. I mean...
Mine's not like the big cowboy ghost rings.
No, that's what this one was. Yeah. This was huge. I mean, it was like a 1/4-inch hole. And then you're trying to look at that sight. And at 100 yards, the whole paper plate fits inside the sight.
Oh, yeah.
Plus. And there's room outside it. And it's like... But it's so hard to line that up. I mean, sure, at 25 yards or closer, it's going to do what you need to do.
Right. Which is, as a bait gun.
It's designed for.
Yeah. But... I had the same problem where that front post is just a black fin, basically,
really?
off the top of that. There's no definition. There's no orange paint. There's no reflective.
It's not even a
nothing.
Nope.
Really? My Marlin had white paint on it.
Yeah. And I wish they would, Henry would do something like that with these rifles, because they're really great. It shoots great. It feels great when you're shooting it. It functions great. It can shoot everything from, 400 plus grain loads down to the lightweight plus P's. It's super versatile, but unless you scope it, red dot it, or replace the sights, you get into low shooting light and it's useless. So, especially against black bear, dark colored deer, things like that.
No, I love the challenge of the stylus sight on that 30-30 and the traditional, like, this is what guys really used to hunt with, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, you can read the stories of the old, what was the popular 4570, 4590? What was that rifle make? Sharps. Yeah, Sharps. And, with a lot of those were the rolling block and the gate loader and stuff like that. And they would, guys could shoot 1,000 yards with those things.
Does anybody chamber anything in
4590
they weren't
anymore? Necessarily knocking heads off of guys at 1,000 yards with them all the time.
I was going to say that their version of 1,000 yards, I think a lot of things get embellished with time.
Oh, I agree. But there were sharpshooters that were excellent shots
for their time.
Yes, for their time,
relatively speaking, to the abilities of others.
Yes. But I mean, let's go 50 years ago.
Yeah,
Vietnam and Carlos Hathcock.
Yeah,
and what he used to shoot long ranges.
Yeah.
It kind of blows the whole idea of reloading and consistent ammunition and bedded versus floating barrels and all that kind of stuff. Just goes out the window, right? He took a Ma Deuce 50 cal machine gun, strapped a scope to the top of it, and was making what was his shots with that?
Oh, I don't remember. It's been a while since
it was well
I've
over
read that
1,000
book.
yards, wasn't it?
It was a ways.
Anybody looking to dive into the long range shooting world needs to know that name and look him up. The guy was an absolute.
He was killing Viet Cong with a Model 70. I mean, it doesn't get any more hardcore than that.
So
better run through the jungle. That's all I have to say.
All I'm saying is, if you have any consistency in your rifle ammunition and you can shoot accurately to hunt, even at longer distances. I think
Right.
200-300 yards with that marlin is completely doable with enough time behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, now I might start to shoot some factory loads because I've worked hard on my reloads, and I'd like to just hunt with those. But anyway, I love it. I've
Yeah.
got reloads for it. They fly really fast,
Mhm.
Yeah. they
so
do.
fast that my maxed out on that site for how low I can get
Mhm.
bringing the bullets down is maxed out, and I'm still high at 100
Yeah.
by like what 2 inches or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, 2 inches
Yeah.
high with the sight maxed out.
Because they're
Mhm.
so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, going back a little bit in time, when we got down to the area, Mo and I made a trip down to the rifle range for the local area, and I encountered a problem with my beloved Weatherby 338 RPM.
Oh, really?
Wasn't with the rifle; it was with my hand loads. I blew a
that's right.
primer.
Oh.
Yeah. Blew a primer, and it wasn't a hard bolt lift. It wasn't a hard extraction. Nothing.
Hmm.
And I hadn't had that happen. I've had a bunch of those hand loads through that gun, never had an issue with it. I did have a bit of a problem at one point where the gun got a little bit dirty
Yeah.
and some stuff got up in the action a little bit. And just where those 6 lugs kind of rotate and lock into place, that's a lot of surface area there. And so something got jammed in there a little bit, and I had a little bit of an issue with bringing the bolt back after you'd chamber around and bring it out. Even with an unfired round, it was just a tight, extraction out of the chamber.
Right.
Everything else functioned fine. So I ended up just taking a little brush in there, a little modified toothbrush,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of cleaning out up inside the chamber area around the lugs. And it hasn't had an issue before or since then. And that wasn't a problem to where I couldn't run it. It was just a little bit stiff.
Gotcha.
And I'm glad that I noticed it when I did at the range this summer in between spring and fall guiding, because I took that rifle both spring and fall.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take it bear guiding in October, but I took it in September doing that moose hunt.
Yeah.
So anyway, I encountered the problem in town. I cleaned it out. No, not a problem. I just kept an eye on it, made sure that it was running smoothly. While I had it out in the field, never had an issue with it. Well, fast forward down to the range there, I'd shot that gun before I went down deer hunting, and I shot that gun when I got there, and I blew a primer on like my 3rd shot. I shot once, I shot again. I'm just shooting a group just to make sure everything's still good. It was still on same point of impact. The zero hadn't changed at all. And I fired the 3rd shot in the group, and I was going to be done with that. And I'm glad I fired the 3rd shot
Mm-hmm.
because it blew a primer, and I pulled the case out and looked at it. Oh, great. So now my confidence is a little bit shaken.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, I know these reloads were, definitely at the upper end of where I would, normally be. They weren't unsafe. I didn't have any pressure marks on the cases. It definitely wasn't unsafe, but it blew a primer.
Well, and that's the danger of running those upper end loads.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
It's not necessarily danger as in like physical harm to yourself,
but it's danger of function.
It's more wear and tear on your machine. It's more stress on the action.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
and if there's any action I'm willing to push it on, it's a Weatherby
oh
action.
yeah,
Right.
dude, those things are bulletproof.
Yeah, they're built like a tank.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't even the worry.
No, that wasn't the issue. The issue is my gun going to do this when I'm hunting?
Right.
So I only had a select, I think I had like 25 hand loads left before I had to remake some. So I had brought 1 box of hand loads, and then I brought a box of factory loaded ammunition that I'd shot before and I knew shot well. I'd brought that as an extra just in case something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know when you need more than 20 rounds if you're sighting in or if you drop your gun or something. And I've got the extra weight and space. It's not like I'm backpacking. So I brought an extra box of shells for it. I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up re-zeroing the gun with factory ammo,
Mm.
which took a few rounds here and there. And that gun changes point of impact considerably when switching from those hammer bullets back to the factory loads that I brought as backups. And it takes 2 shots to almost refoul the barrel, if you will. So what I did was after I fired the hand load that blew the primer, I took the bolt out, cleaned the barrel real fast. All I brought with me on that hunt was just a little bore snake.
Yep.
And so I just ran a bore snake through it several times with some solvent on it, let it sit for a few minutes, let it dry out of there. And then I shot it with the factory ammo, shot 2 rounds, Shot a third one, and sure enough, it switched point of impact like 5 inches after it refouls to that ammo, which is strange, but it just is what it is. I don't pretend to understand all of it, but it has to shoot 2 rounds going either way, switching from that bullet to a different bullet.
Gotcha.
So I got it to switch over, and then I let the barrel cool back down. Then I shot 3 rounds and had it on 0. Let it cool again. Fired 1 more just to check, and I was on ready to go. But I didn't deer hunt with that gun. I didn't need to deer hunt with a 338 RPM. I did that in August, and I shot a nice buck up in the Alpine with that gun at 330 yards or something like that with that exact hand load.
Yeah,
no issues. Anyway, I'm still salty about it. So I brought a Sako 30-06 deer hunting this year. Seiko for us American freedom lovers.
I still say Seiko.
Yeah, and that's a super nice, handy little rifle. It's a 22-inch barrel, 5 rounds in the magazine, stainless synthetic. It's the Finlight 2 rifle. Shoots great. And I was shooting factory ammo. I was shooting the 178 ELDXs. I just didn't have enough time to reload a bunch of hammers for different guns this year, just due to time.
Yeah.
And so I shot factory ammo. It shoots those bullets very well. And I shot it at the range with Mariah before we went down there. Shot great. Shot it again down there. No issues. And I ended up shooting both my deer with that gun.
Nice.
I wanted something slower that didn't quite have the muzzle velocity of a big Magnum caliber, because those deer, you just don't need that much to kill them. And even 30-06, you don't need a 30-06 to kill them. Something like a 243 or like a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 6mm Creedmoor would be perfect for those little deer. Absolutely perfect.
And a lot of people do use smaller cartridges.
Oh, yeah. And I debated bringing my 243 right down to the last minute, but it's not a stainless gun, and I didn't really want to wreck it down there, putting it in the salt water. And I have other guns that are going to do better in those conditions, so that's what I brought. So anyway, yeah, I shot the 30-06. As far as new gear goes, I didn't bring a whole lot of new gear. I have what works. I did buy the Omen Storm Shelter pants before this trip. My long-time serving KUIU Yukon rain gear, jacket and pants that I've had for a long time, it was kind of starting to wear out a little bit. I've been using it guiding for a long time. And I hadn't sent it in for a warranty yet. I've got a new set coming that I'll be using this next year. But this fall I decided to try out that Omen Storm Shelter rain gear, and it is bulletproof. It is good stuff. I wore the pants a lot. I didn't wear my Sims pants very much on this trip. It was just cold enough that my feet still got cold in those pants. Yeah. With those uninsulated wading boots. For anything before December, it's great. Like I wear those Sims in November, and it's perfect. Right. Absolutely perfect. But your temperatures are never getting below like 40 degrees. Totally different climate down there. Yeah. So I ended up wearing my lacrosse hip boots, which are a staple in bear camp in the springtime. But like Mariah alluded to, so professionally, I dumped water down them on the one day of really, really bad weather that we got on this trip. I was wearing those hip boots with the rain pants and just sitting in the boat, just driving. I would get water that would just pool up on my rain gear. And then every time I would stand up to glass, water would just slide right down the rain gear, down the pants, straight down to my feet. And my feet just got drenched. Remington dealt with the same thing. He was hunting in hip boots too. We both had wet feet that day, but you just battled through it.
I did not regret not bringing hip boots.
Yeah.
But, that was a mistake on both of our parts. Yeah. Every time we took hip boots after that, it didn't rain that hard, but we had Helly Hansen bibs that we could pull over our hip boots, because that's what we do in the springtime bear guiding, because we don't bring Sims waders in the springtime.
Is there anybody that makes some kind of like shorts style gator, upper gator?
I modified a pair of Grundon's pants for that.
Did you just just cut them short,
cut them off at the knees
on them or something?
3/4 pant.
Cut them off at the knees.
Because that'd be so much better than like having to wear full bibs.
Yeah. But, just for running the boats, if I'm in hip boots in the springtime and it's just pouring rain, I'll have on rain pants underneath my waders. But if I'm in the boat where I'm sitting like that, where I get a bunch of water pooled up, even if I'm hunting and I'm outside a lot and it's just pouring rain, I'll put those bibs on over it, and I can. I have them in extra large so that they're not restrictive or anything like that, more than hip boots are in general. So yeah, that's about it for new gear. I brought a different gun to shoot deer with. I didn't bring my old trusty 7 mag this year.
Oh
which
man,
I got home and I saw it shed a tear when I walked in the door with deer meat. But that gun has been a staple of deer hunting down there for a long time. But I just don't need the velocity.
So on that,
a little bit extra.
I brought my 300 Wisdom because, for one of the reasons, I wanted to kill something with those reloads I worked so hard on, and they did. I mean, they killed the deer really well,
catastrophically well.
Oh, yeah.
One might say.
I would almost just say if it didn't mess up the tenderloins, just gut shoot your with that, so you don't ruin gut or head. That way you don't ruin the meat. I mean, if I had shot that thing up like a quartering tried to go between the quarters or something, I would have destroyed the shoulders on that deer.
Yeah.
I mean, it turned that stomach inside out.
Yeah. And it didn't even hit the stomach.
I think it did the top of it.
Did it?
It was at the top, yeah.
I thought you said it didn't hit the stomach.
No, it hit the stomach. It didn't hit the spine. But
that's
the spine was split. Like, not just broken, it was split. There was an inch gap in the spine.
Yeah.
And which, because of that shock, the tenderloins were ruined.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also covered in bile.
Yeah.
But, like I said, 2-inch exit hole, 2.5-inch exit hole.
It
massive.
just shreds those tenderloins. And
those
everything
hunters
else
do the job. Those hammer hunters, or hammer, that was a hammer HHT.
HHT, yeah.
But I like it. But I mean, I am loaded. Those are loaded hot for range through 3,100 plus at the muzzle.
Yeah.
In like 10, 20 or 10 degrees or colder, they're about 3,100, and the temperatures you're hunting are probably 3,130 or so.
Yeah.
But I decided I might take my 6 mil arc on that hunt at some point because it's good to 400 yards.
Oh yeah,
so easy to shoot with that thing.
Oh yeah, that'd be a sweet deer gun, dude.
I'm gonna put I need to do some work to it. It's still not done. I don't know if an AR is ever done, but
that's the fun part about an AR.
I'm gonna put a Timney impact.
Okay.
On the trigger, flat trigger on it.
And put a bump stock on there?
No. That ammo is too expensive.
There's 4 of them on the beach over there.
That ammo is too expensive for a bump stock. But anyhow, I want to do that. I need to change my scope mount and this and that and bipod this, that, and the other. But another $1,000 and it'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
Until the next $1,000 upgrade.
that Timney trigger is only like $150.
Yeah, no, Timney's a good stuff, and they're pretty affordable.
And they've got them at Sportsman's right now.
Speaking of Timney, Remington put a Timney in his Glock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. I ordered one. So my wife has it's an old Kimber M98 from when they were refurbishing.
Oh, rifle,
yeah.
Okay, I was going to say
from when they were
what pistol is
refurbishing the surplus rifles.
Yes,
into hunting rifles. And
well, that's way back there.
Oh yeah, it's an old Mauser action.
Yeah,
and it's a really phenomenal gun. I mean, it does well. I did a lot of work to that this year, floating the barrel and doing a bunch of other stuff, but bedding the action, which is really easy to do with those Mauser actions. They're halfway bedded as they come normally. You pretty much just got to put a pillar, put one extra pillar in there, and you're good to go. But I threw a Timney featherweight in that. They actually had a direct drop-in trigger replacement for a Mauser M98 action.
Oh.
They had 2 different versions, so you got to figure out which one yours is. Whether it's I think it just depends on where it was made.
Yeah,
but. I called the guys. They were super easy to work with. I just walked them through exactly what model we had. They told me which trigger to buy. I bought it. And same thing, it was like $130 or something like that, 140. And I mean, dropped in, and that thing, when they say featherweight, oh man, you breathe on that thing.
Is it like a
hard.
1 to 4 pound?
It's probably set to about 1.5 now.
Really?
Yeah, it's super light, which is funny because so originally that rifle, when she first got it, it had a 2-stage trigger.
Oh.
And the second stage was like 8 pounds, man.
Whoa.
It was insane. It was a heavy trigger.
That's one thing I don't like about that 30-30 is the heavy trigger.
Yeah. But I threw this thing on there, and then her groups just shrank immediately. Really? I mean, just from that difference.
It's hard
alone,
to anticipate the shot when you've got that kind of a.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, like I said, it's you breathe on it too hard and it goes off. It's awesome.
So Dalton, when I finish up my AR and I really get it nice, I think you're going to shoot it and you're going to like ARs.
Mm-hmm. I think you should kill a bear with my 450 Bushmaster this year in AR, and I think you'll fall in love with that. Oh, come on.
You guys.
20 yards, man.
No.
That's true. That's true.
No.
Granted, that AR ain't light.
That thing, so with the hammer 220 220 shock hammer in 458 or sorry, 452. Either way. That thing will shoot that at like 2,400 feet a second.
Really?
Yeah, out of a Bushmaster.
My 375 Ruger will launch a 270 grain shock hammer at 2725. So eat
So
that.
speaking,
But it's not semi-automatic.
so
Don't need it to be. I only need one shot.
What if you got 3 bears sitting at the bait? You could tag out all in one. You could tag out in 2 seconds, bro.
Does this look like a guy that wants to shoot 3 bears in one night? The answer is no.
ask, know somebody who's done it. You don't. You don't.
Yeah, I know. I know several people that have done
Don't
that.
want
Actually,
to do that. No thanks.
Some funny stories actually, but we won't get into all that.
So, with amongst guns and cartridges and calibers and all that kind of stuff, there's a new, well, kind of new cartridge developed by Sig Sauer,
Sig Sauer,
or AKA 6 Hour.
AKA. You did that backwards there.
I did that on purpose.
Is that from a YouTuber or something?
Oh, something.
Yeah.
So anyhow, they
like Tom Sawyer.
they've got a
Sig Sauer.
they've got a contract, or they've been working on trying to get a contract with the U.S. Army for new developed weapons and round cartridges and things like that. And I mean, they always are in that game.
I'll say everybody's always trying to get new.
They are,
yeah.
but Sig kind of has the pattern down. I think they do a really good job.
Follow the money.
Oh yeah,
Right.
but Sig's good at the money, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And they're good at the development, right?
Oh yeah,
So we don't have the money.
No knocks on Sig.
They so they developed a cartridge trying to meet certain standards that the Army had put out. They had this whole list, I can't remember what it's all called and the acronyms and everything, but the Army kind of put out this thing basically wanting companies to present options. They want a short, light rifle that can fire a bigger bullet faster than like an AR-10 can, right? So Sig developed the civilian variant is the 277 Fury.
Okay. Yeah, you brought that up in another episode.
And the military variant is 6.8 by 51.
Okay.
So it's a 308 neck down. You could neck down a 308 and shoot it. However, with a modified case, it has a stainless steel case head with a lock ring that attaches the brass to the rest of the head, because the head is where your major issues are in pressure.
Right.
With the modified case and the right action, it is SAMI spec civilian 277 Fury is SAMI spec to 80,000 PSI. That is 14,000 PS higher than the next down SAMI spec cartridge.
Wow.
With that cartridge,
80,000?
With that capability, you can buy factory ammo from Sig. Factory hunting ammo is about $8 a box. They're bonded bullets.
Okay.
And you can put that out of a 16-inch barrel at 3,000 feet per second. 140 grain, 6.8.
Dang.
That's moving.
Out of a 308 case. Essentially, same size.
Wow.
Low powder volume, high pressure that allows them to do that. They're putting like 13-inch barrels on the guns that they're selling the Army, the MCX Spear.
How sharp are the shoulders on that?
I mean, it just looks like a neck down 308. It ain't that sharp.
They're getting all their performance out of the
the pressure is really what does it.
Yeah.
And even with the standard, just because they also sell like ball ammo that's not quite as fast, that doesn't have the modified case, and that stuff still is pretty hot. I don't remember exactly what the numbers on it are.
Question.
What's that?
Wow.
Okay. The case capacity of that of that particular cartridge. How are they getting the pressure that much higher? Could you take a
different powders, I believe. Is
okay. That was my question. Would it even be possible to take a neck down 308 to 277 and fill it all the way up like a compressed load and achieve 80,000 PSI?
Yeah. And blow up your bullet, probably.
Well, sure.
Yeah, most rifles won't even handle that. But
if you took a load spec compressed 308 neck down to 277. If there are compressed 277 loads without the steel case head, without a special kind of powder, could you achieve that? Or is it a special propellant?
I don't believe it's a special propellant. I just think it's the right propellant.
Yeah.
There are so many powders available on the market. There's not a lot of reloading data available.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is there any
Because-
reloading data out there?
so-
and who is able to get that kind of
so-
performance reloading?
So SIG has not released the weapons rifles with the 277 Fury caliber availability to the public yet. No
So all
No
public.
dealer has them. There are a few guys with YouTube channels and such that
Yeah.
have like the MCX Spear or a SIG Cross rifle
Mm-hmm.
that are chambered in 277 Fury that SIG is given them that are actual SIG make.
Yeah.
What is available, because the SIG Cross rifle is a bolt action one piece receiver, one piece meaning the grip and everything integrates like an AR. It's not a
Mhm.
two-piece AR receiver. It's like, it looks kind of like an AR receiver, but it's one piece with a bolt.
Yeah.
The more I look into the SIG Cross, the more I want one,
Mhm.
right? But you can swap the barrel on it like you swap an AR barrel.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
bolt is a three lug bolt
Three-lug, yeah.
that locks
Okay.
into the barrel, and therefore the barrels come headspace from the factory,
Nice.
like an AR barrel would.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Except it's 3 lugs instead of 8. 60-degree bolt throw.
Yeah. I thought I remembered you telling me that. I like that.
It does not have a safety that locks the bolt,
Mhm.
but when you fold the stock in,
Yeah.
it locks the bolt down.
Mhm.
So it's not quite as good, but it's pretty close.
And it
'cause
has
Yeah.
like an AR forend on the gun.
similar
Yeah.
to, yes.
Yeah.
Similar
Yes,
to it.
and M-lock.
Well,
yeah.
and I'd be really curious. I'm gonna have to look this up and see what changes they did make to the case. As far as if they changed anything, because all of that will affect your pressures. It's not just the propellant
Right,
you're using; it's
right.
also how you
the shape
get
of the case.
how you get that propellant to burn. So, is it burning more rapidly, or are
Mhm.
you getting it to burn slower? Or are you getting it?
I believe
and
it's
so
just large rifle primers.
yeah.
So there is one website I found that has reloading data for it,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a ton of loads listed out. And I don't know if they're actually range tested loads or if it's all computer stuff that they've done the math on
Right.
to say this is your PSI rating for this load. So you'd be safe to start at their starting load
That's
and
out
work
of
it
a
up.
16-inch barrel. huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, out of a 24-inch barrel, you're like 3,200 almost.
So for comparison for folks, in other 270 caliber weapons, the 270 Winchester,
Mm-hmm. Or 6.8 Western also.
Yeah. 6.8
Right.
Western.
the 270 Winchester was like the original starting place of American standardization of the 270 caliber,
Mhm.
okay, for a hunting rifle.
Yeah.
And their claim to fame was the first hunting round to reach 3,000 feet a second. Guys wanted a faster round than the 30-06.
Mm-hmm.
And so they achieved that with a 130 grain bullet going, 3,000 feet a second, which you can still buy that on the shelf today.
Yep.
That's a 24-inch barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So with a 140 grain bullet,
Mm-hmm.
same bore diameter, you're getting 3,000 feet a second with a 10 grains heavier bullet in a, you said a 16-inch barrel
Yes.
versus a 24. So you're looking at an 8-inch shorter barrel,
Mm-hmm.
and
So-
you're getting the same velocity with a heavier bullet.
So you take that. Did they say how much? You may have said it. I may have missed it. How much that rifle weighs?
So the SIG Cross,
Mm-hmm.
6.5 pounds.
That's the same as my Weatherby. Okay.
I've seen
They
more
have
than
a
one
lighter
person.
variant,
Yeah.
and there is another company making there's only 2 companies I've found aside from, there might be some really big, expensive stuff. The Fix by Q rifle, if anybody knows what that is.
Yes.
It's a same style rifle.
Mhm.
It's an AR style barrel swappability. They make one that's like 5.4,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's $3,000.
Yeah.
Field Ethos worked with them a lot.
Yeah. You pay when you get light rifles. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Um,
it's got a little bit nicer. I think the stock on it, the way the stock locks, is a little nicer. Although in that 6.5 pound rifle, you get adjustable length of pull. from
Oh,
SIG.
do you?
You get adjustable
Okay.
comb.
Mhm.
You get several things that are very adjustable. I believe you could
Good,
put
okay.
any AR grip on there you wanted.
Yeah. Which that's a big deal for me because most rifles are set
There's
up for
quite a
people my
bit of
size.
adjustable length of pull
Yeah.
on it, and you can set it up in.
Yeah,
in-
I think my length of pull is like 14 and a quarter or something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So
You
it's-
albatross.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and there was
no factory load or factory rifles coming
the
out.
SIG Cross. There's a guy shooting in 6.5 Creedmoor. I can't remember what his page is called,
Good bear gun.
but he said that he
Nice.
yeah, see what you did there.
You got it.
He
You
said
got
that so shooting factory loads, he was well under an inch every group. Easy, 0.8 average.
So, Jordan.
Hand loads,
Yeah.
average of like 0.6. Like
Nice.
he said without even, he had not built a load for that gun yet, just run of the mill hand loads out of the book.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were half inch or better with the SIG Cross. So
Wow.
I've done some research on the SIG Cross. Obviously, every rifle has its positives, negatives, things you
Yeah.
like, don't like about it. I really like what it is. It's light, folds up. If you get a 16-inch barrel in that folding stock, you have a 26-inch package
Right.
that you can add a suppressor to. Comes threaded barrel,
Right, yeah.
which is going to give you some velocity.
I was going to say,
and
because
things, right?
with a 6-inch or 16-inch barrel, I mean, heck, you throw a suppressor on that thing, you'll barely be over what most rifles are from the factory.
Right. So I was talking to Dalton about this, and he goes, so why do you want that over, say, like a 6.8 Western or even a 270? Well, number one, I can reach the velocity of either one of those cartridges
Mm-hmm.
with a short barrel,
Yeah.
with a 16-inch barrel. Number two, I can download it very easily
Mm-hmm.
to a much slower cartridge. Say if I want to shoot a deer and I don't want to hit it at 3,000 feet per second,
Right.
I can do that. I can
Yep.
take the same rifle and make a 3,000 feet per second load
Mm-hmm.
that I can shoot, hey, shooting hammers, if my point of impact is close enough, I might be able to take a hot and a cold load, a colder, that's not
Right.
as hot load that's downloaded, use that downloaded load primarily. And if there's a deer at, 500 yards and I need to line up on it and I want some better velocity and I can pop that in there and I know my dope and it's this,
Yeah.
it's
I
not
was saying
that
you'd
hard of
really
a
have
thing to do.
Yeah. The point of impact would have to be real.
It'd have to be close,
real
right,
close, which
right.
isn't unheard of.
But
I mean,
with the
that's
right
not an unheard
scope,
of
though,
concept.
with the right scope and setup and shooting both the same bullet,
Right. Yeah.
it wouldn't be hard to, if you
Well,
named
and especially if
left,
you
1 MOA.
base it off of the longer range version
Right.
and then just have the point of impact close enough
exactly.
at close range.
Yeah.
'Cause then
Exactly.
You're
That's what I'm trying to do with my AR.
right.
I need to do a
Yeah.
lot more testing on that, but my point of impact looks identical
Mhm.
at 100
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
on that
Right.
with 2 different bullets. Well,
Mhm.
same bullet, different tip design. One's
What
a
was the
little
difference
heavier.
in weight on those with one being drilled out and one not?
I think like 3 or 4 grains.
Okay.
It wasn't a
nothing
lot. Maybe a
terribly
little
crazy.
bit more, but it wasn't a lot. I think it was
Yeah.
supposed to be 88 and ended up like 92 or 93
Okay.
without drilled out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And although those heavier ones were moving like 200 feet, 300 feet per second slower, same point of impact at 100 yards,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, I mean, I haven't been reloading that long, but that's not something you usually see.
So, well, it's loading is a science that's part magic. So some things just happen.
you add
and,
propellant, it goes
you know,
boom, bullet comes out of the barrel,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and as long as, you can research it and dive into this stuff and
Right.
really just absorb, just an insane amount of information. I know guys that have been doing it for 30 years, still get mind blown sometimes on what they can achieve or what
Right.
happens and what can
Or
change.
what they can't
and
get
what,
done,
what
right.
they can't get done, and it's like, it's part science, part magic.
So-
That's the beauty of it.
So to wrap all that up with the 277 Fury, if somebody's interested in this, no, you cannot buy, at least as of the time of this recording, you cannot
Mhm.
buy a SIG Cross or an MCX Spear if you're interested in the AR style, which the MCX Spear looks like an amazing designed AR. It's the one they're selling in the military. It's a great package.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, the Army, just because I can say this, the Army is actually looking for a gun. They can shoot through, CMU cinder block
Yeah.
and kill an enemy instead of the 5.56 that can't even shoot the CMU through the CMU block out of a gun that's about the same size.
Yeah.
Right.
No, they've been
With almost no
trying to
recoil.
veer away from the 5.56 for quite a while.
You're right. And I think they're going to start by giving, they're more their upfront guys. I think the
They always do.
Rangers and stuff are going to get it
Even when they
first
switched over
and-
to the M4,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a mass. Everybody gets an M4. It was a
Yeah,
slow
it'll be limited.
rollout of
Right.
these new rifles.
and it's going to come. The gun that SIG is selling them is going to come with a suppressor. Like
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really sweet setup, and it's a gun that they
That'll
can
be
take.
so much better for these guys too, because I mean, you know, man, there's so many vets
and
out there
a
with
suppressor
hearing
designed
issues.
for the cartridge.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's so many. It is exactly. But anyway, the whole thing I was going to wrap up with: if you want this now, it is possible to get it. What cartridge was that shot with? Probably 6.5.
I believe 6.5 Creedmoor. I'm showing Mariah a picture. This is on themeateater.com.
Jordan Budd.
This is Jordan Budd, and she went sheep hunting here a couple of years ago in Alaska, and she shot a very nice Dall sheep.
Yeah.
With a SIG Cross rifle.
Yeah. Well, so they only make it in 6.5 Creedmoor, 30 and 308, and they have a Magnum version now in 300 Win Mag.
Yes.
Okay.
Very interested in that.
Yeah, it's pretty
myself.
sweet. Pretty sweet looking. And because the way the barrel's made, you could have a barrel made by Proof in another cartridge. That being said, is making barrels for the 277 Fury that will fit the SIG Cross.
Nice.
So I actually have a line on a dealer that can get me a SIG Cross and a Proof barrel.
Ooh.
So you don't even have to wait for the
I don't have to wait
release.
if I want to spend the money.
Yeah. Nice.
Now, can the action from any of the 6.5 Creedmoor 308, can they both handle the pressure of the 277 Fury?
Yeah, I believe it's the same action.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
The action
Now,
isn't primarily, I believe it's the barrel that takes the brunt of the...
Can you get the reloading dies?
Yes, because you can get reloading dies for anything. You've spent enough money.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
The reloading on it is going to be a little bit more sketchy right now. But
yeah,
you know,
and sometimes I'm amazed at how fast they roll out dies for some new cartridges.
I think I saw somebody that had either some Forster or some Hornady custom dies.
Okay,
that they had gotten into. So because it's a Sammy spec cartridge, I should just be able to call Hornady and tell them I want 277 Fury dies.
That's true.
And they have the Sammy spec.
Yep.
Right.
Interesting.
Although I don't know if there's something weird they'd have to do for the die for the steel part of the head.
Sometimes it might depend on trademark, or not trademark, but copyright stuff too.
No, what I mean is if they'd have to change the die, like the sizing die, because of that, because it's not going to change the size of that steel, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
What I mean is if they've released the design to be manufactured by people yet.
The Sammy spec is available. Sheet. You can read the sheet.
Whether they can get the information and are legally allowed to use it is two different things.
Well, I can take the sheet.
You can.
I can take that and send it to them, and they'll make it for me.
Yeah,
legally, and they can do that. Well, because if Proof can make the chamber barrel,
if they've given Proof the approval to do that, because what it comes down to is somebody else making money off their design without their approval. So that's where it would get dicey. But
I mean, Proof's making it. I think a few other companies might be producing it.
Yeah, and I have no idea
SIG
how
is
that
selling
world,
the ammo.
Yeah, I have no idea. How picky that world is as far as who can make what and who's contracted for who. I know, it comes down to factory ammunitions that way. That's why a lot of those new Hornady cartridges, you can really only find like Hornady and Buffalo Bore. But
I don't know about that either, because I mean, everybody is trying to make ammo for those new cartridges. Like the 6.5 PRC, we saw it. It was originally just Hornady ammo.
Right.
Obviously,
because Hornady was ready
with the release,
with the stock,
right?
Yeah, when it released.
Because they were going to release the cartridge, and then everybody else was scrambling, saying this is going to sell like hotcakes. We got to make ammo for this thing, and so now you can find 6.5 PRC made by Barnes.
You can
Hornady,
right?
I've been really excited
Federal,
about seeing all that,
all kinds of different stuff. I don't know if I don't know if it's like a copyrighted thing. I just think it's a production lag where
I believe it is.
They see it. It's a new cartridge. Let's load ammo for it.
Yeah. Again, I have no idea how that actual world works, but just knowing the business world, there's got to be something involved with that.
Sure.
If you own the rights to that design, then you have to make.
I don't
money
know if
off
they're
of
paying
it.
I'm
I
sure
don't know either.
I don't know.
I'm sure they're paying to make ammo.
Because if something Sammy spec,
there has to be something to that.
Pretty sure if something Sammy spec,
Sammy spec is just an approval rate.
It is an approval rating.
That's not
but
public
now it's
domain.
Public information.
Right.
Information is not domain though.
Correct.
So anyway, that's not what the podcast.
Yeah.
But anybody can chamber a rifle in any Hornady cartridge.
You can.
I just wouldn't be surprised if those ammo companies that are making ammo for it are going to have to pay that. I'm sure that goes for anybody, and
I'm sure. And that's just my speculation, knowing how other forms of business work. I'm assuming that's how
we'll have to get somebody from an ammo company down here and chat that up.
Absolutely, we will.
But that's for next time.
It is. Well, I'm glad you guys shared your story, shared your insights. Honestly,
It's a fun little chat.
and and we've talked before about how a hunt like this is a great way to just come up and just have fun and get out there and do a bunch of different stuff.
It's a good entry-level hunt for the state.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, anybody who hears this story and wants to do it, like Jeff said last week, it's like anybody can come up and do this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be, have great connections. If you do your research and you budget, sure. But, it's achievable by the average guy. You can come up here and do this all day long. So,
yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
but
Lots of fun.
yeah. Well, you guys got anything you want to add to your story? Any
I
final
don't believe
points?
so.
Nope, I'm just waiting until next fall now.
Perfect.
Now it's time to switch gears and just get through the winter and
Yeah.
wait for spring bear.
Yeah,
Yep,
now that
exactly.
Do
all
some
that-
predator calling, some ice fishing.
I was working on my 4570 just yesterday.
Were you?
Yeah, figuring out some stuff I want to do to it. So we'll talk about that more when it gets closer to bear season. But
Right on.
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging in for this one. Another long episode. I see we're getting back into this long format thing. So
Well, it's winter time.
Exactly, it's winter time. We got a lot to talk about.
It's a lot shorter than the last one still. So
True.
We're still
That one's
20
going to be
minutes
hard to
shorter.
beat. But guys, if you have any questions, feel free to write into the show. We've got our social medias. If you search at The Northern Hunter, you can hit the contact button on our website, thenorthernhunter.com. That'll get an email straight to us. While you're there, if you'd like to help support us, then shopping from the shop page where we've got merch, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, and all that. We've also got the partners page with a bunch of great companies that have all decided to support what we're doing here, and most of them have discount codes for you to use, so you can get some nice hunting gear to help you get out there at a discount. Helps them out and helps us out a lot too. We're trying to grow, bring you guys more content, different formats and things like that. Now, the cheapest and easiest way to help us out is, of course, to subscribe to the show. Give us a rating. 5 stars is always best. Written reviews go a huge way in helping other people find the show, as does sharing it with your friends.
Yeah.
So we appreciate everybody that does that. We see it all. We really, really appreciate it. That's really our main form of marketing, you could say, or advertising is you guys. So the more you help us out, the more we'll be able to grow and bring you guys more Alaskan content. So thank you so much for listening. And until next week, get out there, get after it. Good luck. We'll see you there.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to StealthyHunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.